Fenrir's Prelude is a narrative game with classic JRPG elements. As you level up, you learn more skills and become stronger. Make friends with a cast of characters inspired by classic mythology and ancient gods including Greek, Roman, Norse, Celtic, which one is it? Norse, and Japanese. Become engulfed in an immersive journey exploring the dark secrets of the residents of Midrealm and understanding their backstory. Replayability to discover new secrets through several endings. Those that experience the true ending will receive a voice-acted ending. And this is Fenrir's Prelude. Go and buy it now. Hey listeners, Benny here in the editing room, letting you know that I love you, but also I'm excited about the episode and I want to tell you a couple things. First thing is that at the time of recording this episode, I thought, erroneously enough, that this was going to be the final episode, but it is not the finale. It turns out I ended up getting more people on for more episodes, so ignore all that finality talk. There's more episodes right for the plucking. My second point of order is a technical issue. Unfortunately, one of the guest's original audio files was unretrievable, but luckily I had a backup Discord audio file at the ready, so it's mostly unnoticeable except might be a few audio artifacts lying around here and there, just sunbathing. Don't be alarmed, this episode has some great guests, informative stuff coming from the history of RPGmaker.net, from some of the most incredibly important RPG Maker engine figures in the history of ever, and that means they had an effect on the game development sphere as a whole, because it is a sphere. I won't go into the science of that, but if they're not going to admit it, I will. I'm pleased to present this episode. Please. Alright.
Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now listening to RPG Maker Cola.
Hey RPG Maker Cola listeners, welcome to RPG Maker Cola Season 2. Finale, I think? Yeah, finale. RPG Maker Cola is that one item you find in all the different shops in the land of RPG Maker community landia, and it's that one potion that will give you bounteous HP, bounteous MP, and it will curse you. So you don't have to worry about it anymore. RPG Maker Cola has installed itself in all shops, and hurry, get in while stocks last. And it's basically, it's not snake oil. It's fine. We just bump the price every now and then, about 150% every week. And you better know it's RPG Maker Cola, your fizzy, soda-filled source of content for game development opinions that mean very little in the grand scheme of things. It's your favorite RPG Maker podcast, RPG Maker Cola. I'm your host Benny, also known as Cash, also known as the Puzzle Snob, also known as aware that there's too much RPGmaker.net in one room right now. And this is the place for you. It's a chill space where we get together skilled developers from the RPG Maker community to chat cordially and occasionally non-cordially about game development, game design, and probably a whole bunch of unrelated other stuff too. It's casual, it's cool, it's cola. Today I have 3 guests, might I say legends, maybe, who dares, who really are fantastic and whose names have been etched in the halls forever to be uttered amongst the priests. I'm just so happy to have them on the show. You're going to love them. 3 mainstays in the RPGmaker.net sphere who have been here since the very beginning, and they've been here a while, but they're still creating games and doing content, and they retain this sort of classical approach that isn't just seen everywhere nowadays, and yet prolific as ever. I'm really, truly excited to introduce our guest today. Our first guest was the project lead and contributing developer and artist to the OhioFirst.net Next Generation Command games. But that's probably not what you know them best for. They're also known for Examante, a game about letting go, and Wilfred the Hero. This is an exceptional looking game. It was unfortunately cancelled a while ago, but has since seen a resurgence of sorts. We'll go into that later on, but it's such a colorful world with just iconic characters, and it's a game that this developer's been working on in various iterations for about 15 years, at times in partnership with artist Tio Metlane. I don't know how to say their name properly, but I think that might be. It follows Wilfred, a famous hero, and his squire Alana Dale, his partner and source of emotional support. They go on a journey to slay the dragon. And they're stymied along the way by an evil witch, Strigonona, and her monster, Strigoneria. And the witch seems more keen on tormenting the heroes than actually killing them. But it's just such a really lush game full of wonderful colors, and I'm really excited for this new iteration. I am so happy. They're also the author of the original RPG Maker podcast, RMN Cast, which is probably, in some ways, like a grandparent to this podcast. I am extremely proud to introduce the one, the only, Brandon Abley, or Maladroit him.
Yeah, hi, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, the project for Ohio is part of my history, that's for sure. We can focus on other things.
Yeah, thank you for being on the podcast. I'm truly privileged. Yeah, and our second guest is someone who has also been here for a while. They've been working on a game for a while now, and are getting back into it. They've always been quite big on community-related things and helping out RPGmaker.net to get all together or for whatever reason. And their game is Chronology of the Last Era. Created in Unity, it centers around the world of Atlas in the year 1864 on the continent of Einhorn. Over the past century, two major powers have risen up and eventually dominated the world scene. The Empire of Judek militarized and united half a continent in endless feudal chaos, and the Roosevelt Alliance shaped up a collection of nation-states linked by trade into a military and economic powerhouse. This game basically is about a search for relics and the mineral that powers them, Ethereum. This game, it last looked to be made in RPG Maker, but I think it's going to be created in Unity now, which is a really exciting upgrade, I think. So, yeah, this game has been around for a while now, since 2008, but throughout its various iterations as well, it's going to have a return, I suppose. So I'm really excited to hear about more about how this game is going and what's going to become of it. Yeah, I'm very inspired and I'm to have them on the podcast. I'm introducing the one, the only, Feld 4 or Mog.
Feldschlacht. It's German for battlefield, but nobody needs to know that. It's from actually, it's a really good track from a good RPG called Saga Frontier 2. It's a famous enough RPG for its music that a lot of people will just kind of know that immediately. But Feld 4 is fine. It's a good abbreviation, is what I go by, you know, instead of obscure German words to people who don't speak German anyway. And anyway, so Feld 4, Mog, is usually what I go by. And I'm really happy to be here. It's been a while since I've really spoken at length to any voices from the RPG Maker community. It's where I started. It's where I cut my teeth, and I'm interested in having a lot to say about it.
I'm really privileged to have you on the podcast. Yeah, thank you, Feld. And I'm going to move on to our third guest. On their profile, it says they made this site of RPGmaker.net, and it's awesome, but they don't run it anymore, and now they're just a plebe like you. Having been at the origins of RPGmaker.net, one of the premier sites for RPG Maker community and hosting of games throughout the years, this person has showed this has been super important in getting the community together and actually creating a place where people can come together and share their games, share the development process. I'm really excited to have them on board. Yeah, this is someone who's very instrumental to the history of RPG Maker. But without further delay, I'm just going to introduce them. I'm introducing the one, the only. It is WIP, or August.
Hi, thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so now that you're well acquainted with our guests, we'll just go on to our next section, which is the Buzz Corner. Welcome to the Buzz Corner, where we talk about what RPG Maker or indie games are gaining buzz at the moment. Or not, it could be an older game, you don't know us. But if I've asked our guests if they can think of a game to bring one game, if they can, to talk about that they're pretty interested in. They don't have to have played it, just have to have a game page or something that looks interesting to them. I'm bringing a game by a listener to the podcast, but I just discovered that they make games that look really interesting. This game's called Throne. It's by Deficiency Productions, and it says that the world ends in 7 moons. Perhaps you've noticed that things are out of place. No, how could you? After all, these are cosmic matters he consumes systematically and indiscriminately. The world ends in 7 moons, and it's sort of like a cryptic kind of monster-filled, sort of like creepy, atmospheric game with symbols and knights that have sort of like blindfolding grates on their eyes and like walking lizards that accompany you on the journey. This game, I think what stood out for me was the art and the kind of vibe that they're going for. It's like a grim, dark kind of vibe. I really enjoy the kind of atmosphere that they're building here. It's kind of like that slow building horror that doesn't really thrive on jump scares, but rather getting that real deep-seated, like grim feeling that grips you, sort of thing. I'm looking forward to Throne when it comes out. Throne, go check that out. It looks really nice.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but I'm checking out like some of the art. It looks kind of odd.
Yeah.
Kind of in an unsettling way.
Yes.
I think that's the point.
Definitely an effective mood, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious if you fight tarot cards or if that's like magic. If it's tarot based, that could be interesting.
Yeah, is it like combined with like Yu-Gi-Oh or something? Is there like some like
Please don't combine it with Yu-Gi-Oh.
secrets that you have to unlock when you put Blue Eyes White Dragon in defense mode?
Blue Eyes White Fool.
Yeah. But it definitely does use tarot cards quite prominently in the sort of mix, and it has that kind of flavor to it.
There is not a happy image of this game. None of them look happy.
Yeah, very, very oppressing atmosphere, like, and the monster designs just reflect that. Yeah, I see something with like a massive like mask and like a big purple tail and like twisted, impossible architecture for a body, and I'm just like, yeah, you can only play this in a certain mood, like if you really want to be creeped out. But if you're really looking for a happy-go-lucky game, this isn't really.
Go for it.
This isn't really a jam, like, you know.
It's definitely a mood, though.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Which, as a note, it's like it can be tough in like an RPG Maker game anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is a good point.
Yeah, go check out Throne. Brandon, what would you like to bring today to the Buzz Corner?
Yeah, I mean, so I live in the United States, and so do probably a lot of your listeners, and pretty much all I've been doing for the last year is playing video games. So I would have a lot to talk about. The game I'd like to mention, actually, is something that Feld worked on, so he's going to be probably real embarrassed. But it's called Fatal Runtime. It's you know, I know Feld pretty well, so I was kind of there when he was making it. With his friends, but like I love this game's energy so much. I don't know how else to describe the impressions I have. Like it's just this like it's like a pixel art game. It's got a little bit of like an Earthbound vibe, but it's just unhinged and strange.
I was gonna say chaotic as well.
The music is fantastic. Our friend Fanterm wrote up the music. I know for a fact that the members of the team that wrote the dialogue were suffering very badly from sleep deprivation when they were writing much of the dialogue.
Oh,
and
wow.
that actually
I would never have guessed.
That's canon.
That actually like comes through in a way that is like extremely effective, and like I just love it. I don't know. I think I'd strongly recommend that people try it. You can donate a few bucks if you feel like, but otherwise it's free. But I just love this game. I'm real proud of him for putting this out.
Oh, thank you.
It's like very unapologetically in your face with its flavor. Like it's not really like a lot of games will be like we're cute but horror or something, or like, but like the pacing of it seems almost like reminds me almost like Paprika or something, where it's sort of like all this surreal imagery being shot at you at like 100 miles per hour. And I love that kind of unapologetic nature of it, because it just seems like, because a lot of games will be like, oh, I'm very mature, I have to sort of pace myself. But like if you've got enough like content, then you can do that. And then it's also just possible that they were so sleep deprived that they just did everything they could in a big...
There is a philosophy. You're actually going somewhere with it. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you actually you're actually pretty right about that.
Feld, it feels like that you made it to keep yourself awake when you were sleep deprived. That's what it feels like playing it.
That was kind of happening a lot.
Right.
Yeah. That's also canon. Like, basically, like, towards the end of it, and just to kind of like skiff real quick about the whole development process of it. So at first we were like, you know what? It was like 6 months ago, beginning of quarantine. We were like, yeah, like, let's like make a game jam to like keep ourselves sane, you know what I mean? It'll be good practice, it's just a good idea, like, why not, you know? And we like kind of like jumped a little bit too high. It was actually an excellent reason why people say don't try to make like any sort of magnum opus shit first, because all that shit happened. We were like, oh, we added too much and then we added too little. It was basically, it turned out, long story short, that 6 months later we were like, you know what, we work on this like once every week now, and we kind of hate it because Unity, like, and this isn't anything against Unity, this isn't a statement on Unity, but if you're making a game in Unity, you don't plan it properly, you end up opening up the program to a bunch of just like shit, and you're like, oh god. You know. So after all of that, we were just like, you know what, like, fuck it, let's just make it an RPG Maker, and we just finished it in like a month, like 3 weeks. And the carryover, the mix, so the combination of three things, right? The carryover, moving things from Unity to RPG Maker, not having any sleep during, and just kind of, you're right about, it's unapologetic, right? Like, that's actually the part I wanted to like really hit on. It is my philosophy in general, and this isn't like a code or anything, right? I'm not that interesting or deep, but it's just like my philosophy. If you're going to do something creatively, just do it, you know what I mean? Just do whatever you're going to do. And we just were like, you know what, let's just like make it like real fucking weird, you know what I mean? Like, let's you know, like, let's make it playable, but like, you know, there's no, you know, let's just make it real fucking weird. Like, you know, you just play it and you're like, oh man, that was insert thing here, and that's what you got. You know, it wasn't, you know, so we like how it turned out, and I recommend, you know, give it a shot if you want to see some weird shit.
Yeah, that's a big focus on like when someone wants to be liked by all. You can really sometimes tell like when a game is designed not with like the idea of being super popular, but just like being like, you know, we wanted to make this and we don't care about you. No, we do, but like it's got this kind of devil may care like attitude about it. Like, it's just like, we do what we want, like punk attitude sort of.
Exactly. Well, again, like, that wasn't like, you know, focus grouped or anything, like that wasn't like what we really said, but that's kind of what ended up, which is even better if you ask me.
Like, naturally, yeah. It's not like you had like a focus group like sort of meeting. It's like, we must be as edgy as possible, like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't care about the people, but no, it just naturally happened. It came together because of the team that you.
No, yeah, I can confirm. You know, I was talking to these guys every day when they're making it, and there was obviously no greater vision or like try hard mood about it at all. Like, it was
a let's get it done.
Let's just ship it as quickly.
Yeah, ship it.
I mean, there was that, but even while we were making it, you know, like you said, like, you know, I generally agree, like, don't try to have to appeal to like everybody, just like what you like, and the people that love it will evangelize it for you, you know, instead of trying to like kind of, no, I don't know if anybody works for this company, but like Ubisoft it, where you have to make it so like from 0 to 99 age range, just make it for like your homies, and then your homies will tell their homies, and then eventually everybody's homies will be playing it.
Yeah, it's made for an audience. Like, it's not like trying to appeal to the widest kind of like, if this game there's definitely like an audience where this game will not be for them at all, like, but for the people who love this kind of stuff, it's like right down their alley, and that's what matters.
But I have more to say about the philosophy, so
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not now, but later.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I mean, check it out, guys. Seriously, I've played it a few times. I've watched a few Let's Plays. Like, I just love this game. I genuinely do.
Thank you.
Great.
Embarrass the hell out of him.
Yeah.
Feld 4, what have you got to bring to the Buzz Corner today?
So I didn't want to just say, oh yeah, Fatal Runtime, also play it, but also, and you know, like, I wanted to just kind of like, I don't want to say, just kind of reiterate what a lot of people have heard, but I really want to recommend Hades. It's big in terms of AAA, I mean, indie games. It's not like, like really small. Like I really want to give someone a come up, but like I feel like I do have to mention Hades as being just like an excellently produced just title, just a thing. I'm like, wow, this thing was really well made. Like even if I didn't like roguelikes at all, like I would respect the effort and the production I went into this game. And a lot of people who played it are like, wow, I never played roguelikes, and this game is just amazing. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. It's about the son of Hades, Zagreus, trying to escape from hell, or from his perspective, run away from home. And the game is very tightly curated in terms of like being a roguelike. It's very like balanced. All of the options you can do, all the playstyle, all the runs you can do have, to me at least, having played it a lot, equal validity. It's not like, oh man, sword sucks, use this, or these boons from these gods suck, use that. Like if you're clever, like anybody can figure out a way to like have their own unique gameplay experience with it. The writing is really good. The amount of content that the game has, like it's just nuts. Like every time I play it, I see something different. The presentation is on point. It's just like a really tightly made game. I would hold that game up as like an example of a type of product or game or piece of media one with that team would aspire to make, because it's like 20 people that made it, and they made like 2 games before that, and Transistor and Bastion, I was like, these games are all right. A lot of people say that, they're like, I don't know if I want to play Hades because I play like Transistor and it looked cool, but I'm like, no, this game is, I like it as being just a straight up evolution of the games that came before it. Like it's really interesting to see like a studio just make an objectively better game with all the lessons they learned from the games they made previously. So I stand Hades. It's an excellent game. It is made by a very diverse team as well. I know diversity in game creation is like really important to me. I'm Black American, so like I'm a minority among minorities, a lot of the time in the field, and just seeing any sort of creative endeavor made with like many different voices, and you see it in the game. You see, even if you didn't know who any of the creators were, you see it and you feel it, and more than just like all sorts of diversity. Like it's wonderful.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I've only played like Bastion. Yeah, this is the game I haven't played. Like
yeah,
everybody has played
all the other ones that you should play.
Yeah, everybody's played this game. I haven't. So yeah, like I can just see in the animations and stuff look great, and I love Bastion, and that's why I don't know why I haven't played this game, but it looks like it's just like expanded to the nth degree, and like actual like probably evolution in gameplay that will be like a basis for games to come. It seems like that's what it feels like to me.
It's one of those games where I saw it and I'm like, yeah, this looks all right, I guess, and then I played it, I'm like, oh shit, it's like 3 o'clock.
It seems to be all those little tiny design, I can even see it, all those tiny little design decisions like and animations where it chooses to like freeze it for a couple of frames for impact, and then using like range, like when you're like aiming at something, it depicts your entire range, so you can get like very specific to like
just all those little quality of life things. So just like little dopamine factory things. You're like, wow, this game makes my life easier, and a genre is supposed to be really, really hard. Like, thanks.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet. It's on my list. I think the most roaring endorsement I ever got was a buddy of mine. He's a police officer, and we live very, very different lives. And just like one day, he just randomly is like, hey, you play that Hades yet? And I'm like, I didn't even know you played video games. This has never come up the entire time I've known you.
That Hades.
And I've been shamed already.
So
Jeez.
there you go. That's the strongest endorsement I've come across so far.
For a game like this, because it seems like this is not the game that gets famous among your non-game playing friends. Like, it's very like it's got all the Athena and all the Greek mythology and stuff, and like it's like a 2D, or not 2D, it's like a 2.5D, I don't know, 3 isometric like battler with. This doesn't seem like the game that blows up like it has, but it has, and I appreciate that. I really want to play it.
Yeah, like it, especially like the one game, you know, that the dude that's dating your friend that you see once in a while, like mentions in the years that you've known him when he's never brought up video games.
Yeah. WIP, what have you got to bring to the Buzz Corner today?
So there's this very JRPG game called IKENFELL. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. But it's a pretty kind of Super Mario RPG / Earthbound / very gay.
Oh, now you've got me.
Yeah, like really gay. The great thing about it is like everyone kind of harangues on it. They're like, oh my gosh, this person's gay, and it's like, man, wait till you get further into the game because like everybody's gay in this game. But it's really cool. Like the soundtrack is kind of like a chiptune soundtrack. The art is like a pixel art kind of game. The game feels really good about it. Like it has like a lot of modern touches with like run speed, text. One of my favorite things about it is there's a whole slew of like accessibility options. And it's stuff like things for like seizure control type stuff, and it's like, are you just like not like good at games? We'll just kind of let you go through the story. There's a whole slew of options like that in the game, and I actually like really love that, where it's like, yeah, let people like kind of tweak their game experience to what like fits them. The whole it's difficult and like if you can't beat it, like you're garbage kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that sort of design. So
right,
but it has like a really cool action-oriented kind of grid battle system. It's just like really, really fun and like positive feeling, even though it's not like a super positive story, but the feeling of it's very positive.
Yeah, I mean, this looks great. It sort of reminds me a little bit of Celeste, a little. I don't know what it is about the art and the animation, but it's just very friendly and all those, that accessibility options thing just seems like a lot of games should have more of that kind of stuff, but they just don't really care about that. And
yeah, it's really inspiring to me from like a design angle to be like, yeah, you can just program these things into your game to be like, hey, you know what? We're not gonna shake the screen, or like we're not gonna like blind you and like shoot bunch of colors at the screen, all kinds of stuff like that.
And it takes a little bit of planning, I suppose, to be like from the beginning to say, okay, from the beginning, I'm going to be an accessible game. So every time I shake the screen or whenever I use that program, I'm going to do a check or something to say, mind you, it'll probably be like it's harder in RPG Maker to structure that, but when you're actually programming a game using legit programming, then maybe you can just have like one video.
And there was a Kickstarter for it like many years ago that I had missed. I hadn't heard about it back then. But I had started following the developer on Twitter a couple years ago once I kind of like sniffed it out. And and I followed him, and like he's very straightforward about like the engineering behind the game, also some of the design. Anyway, just a pretty great game. And you can get it on a lot of different platforms too.
I like the animations, the art looks beautiful, looks amazing. Yeah, I want to play this game. Looks good.
Yeah, it does look great. I've had my eye on it for a while too. Regarding condemning the get good philosophy of game design, I do have a Dark Souls tattoo.
which I know, like, and I think there's totally room for that too.
Yeah, I think what I'd say is that because you have like Dark Souls as a game, like it's sort of like it's implied that it's like, okay, this is going to be difficult, but like it's usually the community that's like the ones that say get good sort of thing, like when there's that attitude of like. It's like my way or the highway when it comes to like game design and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, Dark Souls fans are terrible people. I want that on the record.
Are you looking at yourself at the moment, or?
I am a Dark Souls fan, but I don't hang out in Dark Souls communities for what it's worth.
You don't have to apologize about it.
Yeah, I just have no patience for that attitude. I don't know. A lot of gaming communities get like that. You know, it's not healthy.
Right.
Like the concept of a difficult game is good because I mean difficulty means that the reward is great, but like for certain games, it is nice to have that option to completely ignore the ignore the difficulty. Like games like this, like it seems to fit. Like
Yeah,
We
one
talk
of
about difficult games.
because
I'm talking about
Dark Souls. Dark Souls.
Can't help it, man.
Dark Souls is about 100% about the difficulty, but this the IKENFELL's like about the story and the visuals and, and everything else as well. So
One of the
it's
best
not the main-
examples. Oh, sorry.
You go.
I think one of the best examples of it is that like the composer or one of the composers herself was like, I'm really not good at this game. And like she basically asked the developer like, can you do something so I can actually like play the game? And he's like, yeah. And so like there's a lot of stuff in there where it's like, yeah, you know what, if you don't really want to screw around with the battles, we're just gonna like turn them off, you know, whatever, who cares? We're not gonna like be all, no, you're not allowed to experience this game if you're not good enough to do this. Where it's like, you can fine tune that. You can allow for people that like either don't want to, don't have the time, whatever. That's fair to do.
Yeah.
Most important part, judging from Steam reviews, you can pet the cat.
Oh, the cats are save points. Yeah. It's even better than that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, that's delightful.
Yes. So like I said, like it's just like a very positive feeling game, even though like the story kind of dips into some like some real like emotional like tones and like plot lines and stuff, but it's like it has a good fun feel to it.
Yeah, excellent. So that's what's buzzing. Go play IKENFELL, go play Hades, go play Fatal Runtime, go play Throne. In fact, play Hades, that underappreciated gem. I think we'll go on to our next section, which is we've been playing games. Maybe? Hey, have you been playing games? Yes, you. I'm pointing at you, dear RPG Maker community user person. If not, that's all good. But if so, you can still listen here as each of us talk about a game we've been currently playing or have played in the past, and explain what we liked or disliked about it. I'm going to be talking about a game called FTL, Faster Than Light. It's good. It's good. It's a spaceship simulation roguelike, although they probably just call them roguelikes now, I don't know, because the genre has become so commonplace since this game has been released. It was released in like 2012, back when like Binding of Isaac and stuff were being released and stuff like that. So like, yeah, this was back when the concept of a roguelike was a roguelike-like, was sort of in its infancy, but it's still got some things that modern games can kind of learn from it with regards to random generation of paths and like maps and sort of systems that all work together seamlessly, because this game is just like so replayable. It's easy to come back to. I mean, in my case, 8 years after release, because there's always new ways to approach it. There's always new kind of. It just feels. I mean, it feels new. Like, but I admit I haven't played hundreds of hours of the thing, but I just return to it now and again if I want to fly a spaceship through dangerous territory. Yeah, this game got a lot of buzz when it came out, but you basically like control a crew which you can assign to different places to like man guns, repair things, and then shoot using special abilities and bullets and stuff, and you sort of play at your own speed in a randomized galaxy with no second chances as well, so it's permadeath. So when you die, you die, but then you can like unlock ships and stuff, and it's got good level of complex strategy. Yeah, I highly recommend this game. Faster Than Light. Go and play it. It's good.
I want to actually note a couple things about FTL. It kind of starts dipping into that roguelike, but not sort of like roguelike aspect, somewhat that like Hades does, where you get some permanency to what you're doing.
Yes.
Which I think is actually one of the key things that's made roguelites more like palatable.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you unlock different ships in FTL, like Hades, like you have some permanent fixtures and like upgrades that happen in the game. So it's not just this, you're totally blind going in like a typical roguelike would be. They kind of pull that back a bit, be like, look, we're going to give you a little sense of progression and do a little bit more kind of game or non-roguelike progression elements to it, which I think actually helps like pretty much any roguelike to have those kind of concepts in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I played FTL like forever ago, but yeah, it's a real good game. The music's fantastic too.
It's incredible.
Real good music.
He did the music also for the game that the studio made after called Into the Breach, which is also a fantastic game. But the soundtrack in that is equally as good.
Into the Breach is a game that I've been wanting to purchase for a while. Apparently, it's quite nice as well. Yeah, Brendan, what game have you been playing lately? Maybe.
So lately I've been playing Yakuza 7. I came to it a bit late. It came out some months ago. But I wanted to mention it because I'd always tried Yakuza games, but I ended up bouncing off of them. Like I really appreciated kind of like the storytelling and the mood and all of the wacky stuff and everything, but they just could never really get captured by the gameplay for very long. But so like Yakuza 7 is just straight up a JRPG with a Final Fantasy job system, which is just like when they announced that, it seemed like it was a joke. They announced it on April Fool's Day a couple years ago.
Right.
And everyone's like, what? And like the whole premise is just unhinged, and the main character's delusional, and the whole story conceit is that he loves Dragon Quest and it gives him inspiration to fight, and he's like, didn't you see that guy like transform? And everyone's like, no, we didn't see that. So like and the story's so charming, where like Yakuza has always been about Tokyo gangsters. This is really the story of losers in a suburb of Tokyo. Yes.
To interject, I guess this is the conversation part. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brandon.
Oh no, go ahead, man. Yeah, you're playing it too.
It is those things, right? It is those things. It's charming and hilarious, and it's funny. And it's the thing I like about it is that like there's a serious crime drama in there. It's really good. Like the juxtaposition between like the wackiness part and like the actual like, oh, like this is like a TV show good, like is amazing. Like you do the main quests and you get all this like gang intrigue, that goes into like actual social issues that Japan actually has like right now, and like how like, gray crime can like flourish in a society that like, doesn't do anything about the actual, problems that breeds, those types of things. And then you do a side quest about like some dude like losing his monkey in a carnival on fire. Like the way that it's honestly like the best way to put it is it's very similar to like how like Japan's response to Grand Theft Auto, except it's a JRPG. Like it's just like Grand Theft Auto has like the zany side parts, and then you get into the main story like none of our 13 selves ever did because we were busy blowing up ambulances and beating up people with baseball bats. It's actually an excellently written story. Like I'm like, wow, this is like The Wire in Japan. Like and yeah, just like but it does have the zany parts. The main character, like Brandon said, is a Dragon Quest addict, and he internalizes everything that happens to him like Dragon Quest. Even the game even kind of goes into it's being a turn-based combat. His friend asks like, how come you just like let him like hit you, like you can fight, right? Like the first like hour of the game, his friend asks him that, and it's quite excellent. I have to back Brandon up. It's quite excellent.
I would also like to note that these two have been talking about this game so much that like I've just purchased it just because I'm like, I have to play this game because these two will not shut up about it. I haven't played it yet, so I cannot chime in, but I own it, and yeah, it's like that's all that like their mind is fixated on.
They made you own it.
Yeah.
And I went into it, unlike Brandon, the last thing, I'll speak about it more in the future in relation to some of the other questions. But the thing that is my biggest endorsement is that I've had zero foreknowledge about Yakuza other than it exists. And my girlfriend's like, oh yeah, like you gotta buy this game. I really want to check it out. I really want to check it out. And we did. And I'm like, and day into it, I'm like, wow, this game's amazing. And I knew jack shit about Yakuza.
Yeah, I know nothing about it. I didn't even understand how the game worked because I'm like, it's a JRPG, but it's a Yakuza game. I'm like, what the hell does that even look like? And so I had to go watch some videos to be like, oh, it kind of makes sense now, even though it all looks kind of ridiculous. But it makes sense like visually to see it. So
yeah, I wanted to mention it here because I think it's a JRPG. A lot of people wouldn't notice otherwise because they're just not like looking out for that that series.
It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like the JRPG.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't know that this is the spiritual successor to Final Fantasy V. But the only big criticism I have of the game, and I think this is like kind of maybe significant, but the only jobs available for the female characters are in entertainment and sex work. So there's just a commentary there.
There sure is.
That the game is making about some stuff that it didn't even intend to make.
Yeah, Feld, what's your excuse there? Back that up.
I think it is. I mean, the whole game kind of says that. Like, that's one of the criticisms of the game. Tells you straight up, like, how come we have this first world country and socially only make room for women to do these limited things? Like that, the game does say that straight up. Like, yeah, it's kind of fucked up that, like, the only jobs available to women, both within the gameplay and literally, is like being a hostess or like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's quite layered. Like, I really admire the game. The creators like actually know their shit.
So it's like self-aware about it.
Yes, very much, yes.
And it's like I'm absolutely not denigrating, a sex worker, right? But it's just sort of a weird mood in the game where you're like, well, does she deal cards, or is she a hostess, or is she a mistress? These are my options. Okay.
I suppose it's like intent versus actually whether it pulled it off, and I suppose there's different opinions about that.
Yeah, it's just a great game, though. It's really fantastic.
It reminds me a bit of like the Chinese film Kung Fu Hustle, like kind of.
That's what it looks like a playable Kung Fu Hustle.
like cartoonish action scenes, but with like a lot of like violence, and then there's like the humor inherent and lobsters. I don't know, like breakdancing, singing. Yeah, I know that Yakuza's had that in the past, but like this looks like it's been turned up to 11 or whatever. It's like quite.
And I think one thing that this game does relative to its predecessors is that with the RPG mechanics, there's just a lot more stuff that a game can reward you with that makes side activities meaningful.
Right.
So all of the random mini games that Yakuza games have always had in an RPG that has a bunch of different character classes and other stuff, they can dole out various rewards that are actually like useful or provide different options that, and in the rest of the series, like, if you like the baseball mini game, you can play a bunch of it, but, in service of what? You're still going to mash buttons when you fight.
Yakuza 7, be like the dragon. No, like a dragon. There we go. Like a dragon. Go check it out. Feld 4. What have you been playing lately? I know it looks like you've been playing Yakuza as well, but you got some other games?
Yes, I have actually. So, other than Yakuza 7, I have been playing a lot of smaller scale games. I've been playing a lot of games, dude. That's a very open question. So let me narrow it down to the ones I listed. Streets of Rage 4. Sonic Mania, and I'm sure I listed one on there. But let me start with Streets of Rage 4. I love Streets of Rage. I grew up a Sega kid. I didn't have Super Nintendo growing up. I played it, like my cousins had it, or my friends next door had it. But for whatever reason, as a kid, like the palette colors and the energy and the action and the movement of Sega games just like got me. Like, I have immense respect for Nintendo, Super Nintendo. And I would say that Super Nintendo is the better system out of the two. It has many of the game's greatest games of all time. So I'm not denigrating Super Nintendo at all. But for me, I was strictly totally a Sega kid. Like, just the energy and motion and the music of like a lot of the games is like really, really, really inspired me. And Streets of Rage 2 is very famous among the series for just being the jazziest, slickest, like
Yeah.
dopest, stylish, one of the coolest looking games on there. And Streets of Rage 4 is just amazing. It has a lot of the energy that is just speaks to me. It's just like a jazzy, cool, fun game. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up. You know, like just other Streets of Rage, like games like Golden Axe, Fatal Fight. There's River City Ransom, I think, is one as well. Like it's that type of game, and it's just super slick. It's just like cool as shit, and it's fun. Like it's very tight. Gameplay wise, like all the characters are very distinct one from one another gameplay wise. Like there's YouTube videos of like people doing all sorts of interesting technical fighting game like things. But the thing about the game for me that really sold it is the music and the art and the motion and the style. It's like watching a music video or some shit. It really speaks to me, my sensibilities, what I like when I play video games. Because you see a lot of people, like when they try to make a game of a genre, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to make a beat 'em up, so we're going to make it like, you know, just you got to fight your fists way out of the city. Streets of Rage didn't really try to do that. It's like, yeah, like, you know, so like I said, it's almost like a music video. It's like, yeah, like, you know, you got these dudes and you're going to, you know, just like beat the shit out of all these gangsters and gangbangers and like, you know, rock, like, was it like greaser type dudes in like this modern 90s city with like this, you know, R&B, like club music.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, like it's just me. Like I'll joke, I have a running theory that and I can't prove this, but like I have a running theory that like there was like a 60-40 to 70-30 ratio of like young black gamers who like the Sega Genesis over the Super Nintendo strictly for the style factor.
Right.
And it's just that kind of mood. And speaking of which, I would want to put that to Sonic Mania as well. Like Sonic has a really dumpster fire reputation for the past 20 years, but this
What? No, not Sonic.
not Sonic, but the
Not
side
Sonic.
the side scrolling like old school ones, the Sega Genesis ones are amazing. Like they're objectively good. Like they weren't, you know, they weren't like, you know, really like helped by the fact that a lot of games after it were just shit. But the Sonic 1, 2, and 3 and Knuckles with the same thing, same energy as Streets of Rage, had this jazzy music. Michael Jackson helped make the soundtrack for Sonic 3 and Knuckles. You can tell listening to it. But yeah, I remember I was playing it and like I was playing like one of the levels in Sonic 3 when I was a kid, and my mom was in the background. She actually stopped in her tracks. She's like, "What is that music?" And what was it, a year ago? Like I'm 33 now, mind you. A year ago, my mom was like, "Yeah, you know that game you were playing? Like I think it was Sonic when you were little, and it had like that banging ass music." Same thing with Sonic Mania. Keeps that spirit. If you had any curiosity about any of the Sonic games, it's an excellent stylish game with great motion design and it's super stylish and it's super slick. The sprite work is beautiful. So most people have kind of heard about Streets of Rage and Sonic Mania. So that's just kind of me selling them. But if you like,
I'll just quickly, I'll say about like Streets of Rage. I like the fashion, like of the characters. Like that's something that doesn't always get like the designs and the and their clothing and just they just seem like they ooze cool kind of thing.
It's
like,
cool,
that's
right? Yeah, like that cool factor goes a long way, especially compared to where you're from. Like I'm from Pittsburgh, right? And like in the 90s, Pittsburgh was not unlike Streets of Rage 2. Like down to like people being shit. And I mean, but that's relatable, right? Like that's the world I saw. Like I didn't see like, oh ye old, like, you know, like I enjoyed that, but I didn't see it, you know. So like seeing something that resembles, even in terms of the fashion and the music that I heard, streets that I saw walking down, you know, to the bodega or whatever, like that goes a long way. And I'm sure there's a lot of other gamers that have the same, you know, experience to me. So
Absolutely.
that's it.
I do have to give a shout out for Sonic Mania's development cycle.
Oh yeah.
You know, like Sega just like literally hired prominent ROM hackers and said, "Okay, fine. You know, you clearly know how to make a Sonic game, so like, fine.
Just here's a budget. Go
Which
do
is
it."
just like, of course. It's just like, of course. Like, why not? Like, why did it take so long? Like, get everybody's making successful fan games that people love and just put them on your games because you obviously suck at them.
And like Sonic Team sucks. I mean, they've made terrible games.
It's like finally someone's like, oh yeah, these people have been making really good Sonic games as a hobby for 10 years. Why don't we just take advantage of that?
Yeah, why don't we just exploit them?
Well, they paid
like-
them fair. They,
Yeah,
you know,
that too.
they might be making another one. It's actually, honestly, real talk. It's an excellent come up. You know, like who's better to make something like that than like the greatest fans, both on a gameplay level and a technical level. Like they know, you know, how the game is supposed to play down to the code. You know, I think that's super smart for them to do that.
Yeah, it's like almost like a why not? Like you'd be stupid not to, but yet, you know, some companies just continue to shut things down for very little reason. Fan games and all sorts. Like, you know, it just seems stupid to me. Like you should just go, hey, how about that project you're making? Let's pay you and release it. so you can get paid and we can get paid. Like, just seems dumb to me.
It might be apocryphal, but I believe the name Sonic Mania was the working title, and then nobody came up with a better one.
That's like
It's a good title. Like
in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, the menu in that game is the debug menu that the programmers made. And they never gave them any time to put a real menu in it, and they just shipped it. They're like, well, we didn't give anyone time to do it.
Yeah.
It's in the game, and that's why it's god awful.
Oh wow! The more you know, I actually
Yeah.
know that.
it's hilarious.
Yeah, that explains a lot.
Oh, it does.
Did you want to bring that third game, or are you fine with just those two?
WIP hasn't spoken about his games, and I don't want to suck up all the air in the room. So what I'll say about Dragon Quest 11, and I'm sure I'll segue into it later, is that honestly, I think it's almost a near perfect execution of a quintessential regular ass JRPG. Like it kind of proves to say like Squaresoft that you don't need to change a bunch of stuff about the genre to make it accessible and fun. They just refine the fundamentals to the point where you're like all the older stuff about JRPGs that's still the same. Like it's still turn-based combat with like, you know, just very, very standard foundations that are executed amazingly well. The amount of quality of life to that game is just like nuts. It's like the modern classic JRPG that other turn-based games, I believe, would be foolish not to reference to some degree. So I'll speak more of that later, I'm sure, when I speak about our own projects.
I've heard it's possibly one of the greatest in the series.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
That's like automatic.
that's just one of the best games that's
Come out in decades. It's really a special game.
Wow.
And you know, if you aren't into Dragon Quest, it's hard to convince you of that. But it's just a really phenomenal game. It's special.
I suppose what Feld said, we'll learn a bit more about that later in the influences section, maybe. Who knows? But we'll move on to WIP's game or games. What game or games have you been playing lately?
My primary time sink is unfortunately World of Warcraft. Which God, that game's, what is it, 16 years old now?
It's definitely the best World of Warcraft game in decades.
It is, hands down. And it's what, like, they seem to be on a cadence of making a good expansion and then a shitty one and then a good one. And we're on the good one this time. The last one was not good, and I don't know how that ends up panning out. It just kind of seems to be what they do. I don't know.
They're just alternating for no reason.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of them comes from experimenting with different things. I'm not super into this part of it, but it's like esports has sort of been a big thing that's bubbled up in the scene, and so some of the game influences like that affect the game, usually for positive aspects. It's not like it's bringing the game down, but it does. They do have to iterate on some things.
It says it features the game's first level squish
Yeah.
and a completely overhauled leveling system.
Yeah, there was way too many levels in the game. You would have to spend like 100 hours just getting your ass to the max level where that game like really begins. They fixed a lot of mechanical issues with the game, which it's interesting from a design standpoint of how the hell do you manage a game that's 16 years old? You've got 16 years worth of like cruft and just old things that's been there that like most normal games don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. And it's just interesting to see them sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully deal with it. And it's like the fact that you can basically go back to like a level in the game that's 14 years old and it loads in the freaking engine still. That's somewhat of an accomplishment just from a technical level. It's like the music still plays correctly, you know, all kinds of stuff where there's so much churn in like the engineering aspect of games. The fact that it's compatible with what's been there before is kind of just like a miraculous feat.
They've got something that Blizzard calls the New Game Plus experience with like newly created characters and an updated starting experience on an island called Exile's Reach. So it's like a whole new they squish the level squish is also like level 120 down to level 50.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
it was bad before. Like if you had to make a new character, it was pretty awful. With the whole how they squished it. Your character levels from like 1 to 50 in sort of like old content, and then the last 10 levels in the new content, and you can play those first 50 levels in kind of wherever you want. You can pick up the stories from previous expansions. You can toss and turn, like you can like pick up here, go to this one, come back to it, whatever. And the game, I'm fascinated just by the engineering behind it, where it's like everything in the game scales based off of what level you are, or at least when they want it to. And so you can go back and do all these, like, fight all this stuff when you're level 20 that used to be, like, max level stuff 10 years ago. And it drops items that should be, like, used to be, like, this powerful, but now they're this powerful. It's just, like, from, like, the standpoint of just looking at a big spreadsheet, it's insurmountable the work that they have to do to like get this stuff to work. But yeah, like the new game like experience they done like helps introduce people into the game, which is really helpful, and it's a way more polished experience than it's been like ever. So I mean it's just kind of a fascinating thing to me where it's like, yeah, all this stuff, the whole thing somehow works. Like even that's a feat.
Yeah.
You've got millions of people popping around, and one of the things that like I played pop around for like a couple other MMOs, just like I like the sort of JRPG sort of tangential gameplay that they've got. And World of Warcraft does like this whole their server infrastructure and the way that it works. This is really all technical nerd stuff, but whatever. This is what I'm fascinated by. You can, like, if you make a character on, like, this server, you can play with whoever you want on any other server, because the game just hooks it all together for you, and it's, like, transparent. Like, it doesn't matter. The game doesn't give a shit anymore. Where I tried to play Final Fantasy XIV with some friends, and they wouldn't let me make a character on their server. They're like, ooh, sorry, the server's full. I'm like, what do you mean the server's full? Like, that doesn't make any sense from a gameplay, like from any standpoint. And so I had to make a character on a different server, and you use some little bullshitty thing to move your guy temporarily. It's all just a mess. But it's like World of Warcraft, they've basically been the pioneers on how to do this stuff, and it just works transparently behind the scenes. And it's like, it's just, I think people take it for granted on how smoothly it works.
Yeah, but it's just seamless sort of thing. It does seem like it would be an architectural sort of like. I'd be interested to see how they do that.
Oh my god, yeah. I've like talked to some of the people on the dev team about it, and it's just fascinating to get that peek behind what it takes to make this game work. And they have challenges that like no other game has to even worry about. You have like a game, like you look at some new God of War or Call of Duty, and it's like the graphics, the way that those work in that game, those have to work in a very specific way and they can control kind of what's happening there. In World of Warcraft, you could literally have everyone trying to go to the same goddamn house in one city, and now what's the game supposed to do? So like there's challenges by letting people have this sort of like free forming gameplay and server architecture that other games don't even have to worry about.
And I imagine it used to be a lot easier to deal with just limited server sizes and queues and stuff like that. And then it's pretty easy. Okay, we just have like a maximum of this many sessions in this area and this many players on each server. To make everything open and transparent, I can only imagine the kind of magic that like you just don't think about.
Yeah, and the game used to have all that it used to have a queue, back when the game came out. It's like, hold on, I got to wait for an hour before the game will let me in. And nowadays, it doesn't care about that because it just deals with it. Like, That's what I think is fascinating with the way that technology's gone, is that the game can just kind of like the server stuff can deal with it and pick up load and move it around. Anyway, whatever. That's an aspect of game development that I think is interesting.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That's the one time I tried to play WoW like literally 15 years ago, and I'm like, okay, I've got an hour, I'll do something else.
Yeah.
And then I never tried it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
At this point, I'm in it, and like a bunch of my friends play on it, so I'm like, that's just sort of part of what I do.
Yeah.
I'm all the weird esoteric bullshit terms in that game, I could spit them out for hours, whatever you want to know. I can tell you how to optimize this and that, whatever. That's just sort of, I've been in it. And so I'm like, yeah, that's fine. My friends are in it. We go and play and have a good time with it. So on the opposite end of like, that's massive architectural feat, I spoke about IKENFELL earlier, which is like the opposite kind of game that you would expect of that.
Yeah.
Like I said before, like that's a really fun game. And it's built by, there's one primary developer, obviously like didn't do everything in there, had a subcontractor for, art, music, things like that. It's like a much different sort of game than all that. Another game too that I've kind of picked up, which came out a while ago, but I kind of forgot the email in my email about that I owned a copy of it. It's called Eagle Island, and it's also like a roguelike. It's like a platformer roguelike. And that does a lot of cool stuff where the game feel is also like very smooth. Everything's very, very positive and like kind of lighthearted. It's pixel art, 2D stuff, and everything just moves really well in it. And the way that it kind of does its roguelike, kind of that same thing I talked about earlier, it has not necessarily like a permanent progression thing, but it has like a different sort of like, there's like a kind of a world map and you go into certain areas and those are kind of roguelike experiences in them. So also you shoot an owl from your arm as your main weapon, and like, which is bizarre to me, but it's fun, and there's a lot of interesting design that they get out of it. Like your character pauses in the air when you point the owl to shoot at somebody, and it ends up being like you can do some floating mechanic, all sorts of different crazy stuff. And so it's just a kind of really inventive and ingenious sort of little platforming game. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those, it just feels really nice to play.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm looking at screenshots and video, and these sprites have normal maps.
Oh yeah, no, and like it's pretty, from a technical standpoint, it's pretty cool looking. They do some interesting stuff like effect wise in it.
Yeah. Wow. I wanna read the dev diary on that. I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure somebody wrote it up somewhere. I'm looking at this. I'm like, you monsters. Why did you even bother?
How dare you?
Wow.
Yeah, I had kickstarted it like years ago, and then it just sat in my email, and I was clearing my email. I'm like, oh shit, I never actually installed and played this thing. And then I played it. I'm like, oh wait, this is really good. That must be why I kickstarted it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is like weirdly, incredibly sophisticated for a 2D.
Yeah, it's a
pixel
boy
art game.
shooting a fucking owl off of his hand, and it's like there's normal maps and real time lighting, and you're like, well, great.
Because there's nothing out of the box to do lighting like this. They had to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed.
Yeah, go and check out Eagle Island, World of Warcraft Shadowlands, Yakuza 7, Streets of Rage 4, Sonic Mania, Dragon Quest 11, Fast and Light, all the games. Get all the games, and you time is nothing to you right now. Just use time and abuse it, and there's no excuse to run out of games right now. Just go ahead and that's what's we've been playing lately. Yeah, so now that we've got past that, let's go into our next topic, which is the topics we must discuss, because this is a podcast and it's serious. Welcome to the topics we must discuss, because this is a podcast and it's serious. Here's the part of the podcast where we ask the serious questions. Yeah, sorry, it's a bit of an echo chamber. So I'd like to kind of ask a few questions about your origins and sort of how it all came about. My first question is, how did you come about making games? And if it's RPG Maker, how did you discover it? Or if not making games, then what was your role? How did you come about your role in the community? Yeah, what's your story? I can go in any order, really. Whoever wants to jump in first.
I'm the oldest, so I'm gonna go first.
Nice.
I don't know. I was looking for Super Nintendo ROMs as a teenager and found an RPG Maker ROM, and then found a bunch of websites, and there we go. That's how I found it. I mean, I was looking to pirate video games. And yeah, I mean, the internet was in an infantile stage at that point. I mean, this was like 1997 or so when I first started poking around, when the internet showed up. And yeah, just fine. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is RMD still dying?
Well, yeah, it's like, I mean, and then I've known about Brandon for like pretty much as long as I've been around, because he joined roughly around like the same time that I did.
Yeah, like we met for brunch a little over a year ago, and I'm like, hey, I've known you for 20 years. It's nice to meet.
Yeah.
Nice to drink coffee with you.
That's funny, because some people who meet online and know each other for that long will never get to meet each other in person, and that's just like, it's interesting that, you know, I mean, it's great that you got to meet in person. I also want to just like, yeah, just in general, like it began, let's just say, because RPGmaker.net sort of thing is the place, I guess, where some of us converge. Well, actually, that wouldn't be where you converged. What kind of communities were you involved in, I suppose?
Yeah, honestly, that's probably about halfway through our stories.
Yeah.
To be honest, as far, because you know, so I'm in my mid 30s at this point, so I'm not old, but I'm not young. I like going way back to the 90s. Back then, it was common to hang out in a chat room that was operated by our internet service provider. So our internet service provider for our dial-up internet was CenturyLink, and they operated chat rooms. And off in the corner of these chat rooms were people that would do role-playing. It was about like 10, 15 weirdos that were much older than me that I had no business spending all of my time with. I was like 12 or 13 years old, at first. The internet was an even more wild place back then. And then after a bunch of years, someone's like, hey, there's this weird RPG Maker thing, and I'm going to make a video game about our role playing. And they, after about a week, they had failed spectacularly, and they're like, making video games is hard. And I'm like,
what a story.
Right.
What a lesson to learn.
I might as well go check this thing out. And I ended up finding RPG Maker 95 for Windows. I don't even, did Don Miguel translate that too? Or
yes.
Was that, okay.
He as the expert historian here, he didn't do 95. Kanji Hack did RPG Maker 95.
Oh, yes, Kanji Hack. That's right.
Oh, that's funny, because Don Miguel says he did 95.
Okay. So he did like a post release for it. He did a RPG Maker 95 release.
I recall there being a worse version and then a better one, and then same thing with RPG Maker 2000, because RPG Advocate did a better translation later.
Advocate retranslated 2000 after he did 2003, I want to say, or one of those. I don't remember the correct order, but Don Miguel did not do the initial RPG Maker 95 translation.
Yeah. So anyway,
if you're listening, Don, I'm right here. I'm sorry.
He's unsubscribing.
Yeah.
I'm losing my sponsorship deal. No.
Yeah, just trying to remember the history here. But anyway, he changed my life, I suppose, in various ways. Yeah. So, but I messed around with RPG Maker 95 for a while, and there was some random community with some primitive message board software that I got picked on a lot in, and I changed my username. I will never ever tell you what it was back then.
I might remember if you did. That's the fear.
Jeez, yeah, I'm just going to keep that to myself.
Yep, go ahead.
But then when RPG Maker 2000 came out, I kind of got into it a bit more. I ended up messing around with RPG Maker for a long time, and in and out, and put out some stuff. Eventually I got into like real programming, and then life got a lot more like interesting, and I really recommend learning how to program, guys. I really do. And newer versions of RPG Maker, I guess I say newer, since like XP for a long time, they've supported scripting languages. So I don't really know what the RPG Maker community is like these days, but like the clicky, like quote unquote programming I did for Wilfred the Hero, like I like to say is like my most sophisticated and stupidest programming I've ever done in my life. It's this impossible like architecture of just nonsense. And I can't believe we did that. Like the amount of time I wasted because as a teenager I found programming frightening. It's just regrettable, to be honest.
Yeah, and then I suppose Feld, where did you come into the picture with this one?
So I started with RPG Maker stuff actually with that PlayStation RPG Maker game actually.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow, like you can make RPGs with software or with with something, right? This is accessible to me. And like you can't really make anything with that game because like
Because you can't. Just because you can't.
you just can't. I mean, for all the reasons you imagine, right? And plus, like the save file gets like more than a memory card can hold. Like it gets, it's just unsustainable. So it's really just a toy, honestly. But that got me introduced to the concept. Like even after I put that game away, when I got really interested in the internet in '97, like same with WIP, '97, '98, whatnot. I remember the concept. Like I remember that RPG Maker game for PlayStation. I wonder if that's the thing, if there's new ones, and I just Googled it. I mean, I kind of had knowledge of it through that experience. So I kind of just Googled it and I'm like, oh, they made other ones. They made 95. They made 2000. And from there, I just downloaded it, played the Don Miguel demo, like, to your induction, your baptism.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, this is cool. And then, sort of getting into the many communities back, during the time where the internet was a place where your hobbies were divided into several websites instead of one disproportionately, like large one, So like, you had Gaming World, Gaming Ground Zero, you had like Sky Tower Games, obviously Armin.
Man, deep cuts, man.
Yeah, deep cuts, right?
Yeah, you had RPG Maker downloads for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was at philomortis.com. It was here. Yeah, did you see? Like, so here's the fun thing. Sidebar. Like, one of the most fun things about being into the scene at that era, which I may not have replicated if by chance I had got into it later, was not only being able to jump around different communities because they all had like different like feels with like some really common names between them. Like, you know what I mean? Like you go to like another forum and like have like a black background with yellow text and it'd be like Dark Lord Forums 84. You know what I mean? And it would have like its own mood, and you would see like your homie from like Sky Tower Games, and you're like, oh man, it's like the homie you're peddling for your game here as well, like hype you up, and you had your large like metropolises back then in New York City of RPG Maker was Gaming World. You had like that huge community and all the communities that spawned from it and all that. It was a trip. And so I just kind of went with the upgrades from there. And like 2003 came out, and then people wanted to make Final Fantasy VI type things, and then XP came out. No, the orders might be wrong. I think it's XP, right?
Yeah, XP was after 03.
Yeah, and then you had the other ones that VX, VX8s, and really where I kind of came into the picture where I was sort of like actually like trying to make something for real was by the time I landed in Armin and I started messing around with XP and VX Ace. VX and then VX Ace, because you can transport them from one to the other. And I really wanted to actually, really, really make something because you do all these cool scripting things. And I concur with Brandon 1000% that learning the program is the absolute most useful thing you can do for your game design endeavors. Like, people really resist it for reasons that I totally understand. An RPG Maker, does it so like, you can do as little as possible and still make something, and that's fine too. Like, Fatal Runtime was not made with like a bunch of programming knowledge, but even then we had to do some kind of arcane shit to do.
Yeah, you still had some alterations in that.
We did. We had to excavate the source code, and the collective programming knowledge helped. Like, it made it what it was. So I concur with that, which is part of the reason why I moved on to Unity. But that's something that we'll get into. So that's kind of where I come in.
With like, as a note with the community stuff, like Brandon was talking about like RPG Maker downloads. It's like part of the excitement. I don't know if it was just because I was young in it, but it's like you have all these different little siloed areas, and they're all trying to like kind of compete with each other, but they're all a bunch. I mean, to be frank, I was one too. It's just a bunch of dumbass kids, and and they're all trying to learn how to program a website. Everyone's trying to learn how to like skis out of paying any kind of host because no one has any money.
Yeah.
And so I know like one of the progenitor site for like RMN, the Nexus, which Holbert ran, and I like poked and like helped him with some stuff on the like originally. It was always a constant battle to try to figure out how to get that site hosted without having the pop-up frame and the ad frame that the host like shoved and injected into it. And so there was always a trick that we were trying to figure out on how to get rid of these things. And like me learning like web development stuff, which kind of like Brandon said, like it changed his life. It honestly changed mine. I'm in the field that I am now because of it. It's like trying to figure out how to keep these little dumb sites operational and just figure out how they're working and all this sort of stuff. I would help people with like their different like new layouts. This site's working on a new layout. Oh my god, that's so cool. This site's working on one. Oh, that's so cool. Sky Tower Games. Yeah. Oh, their layout sucks. Blah blah. And so it's just like it's all this kind of weird. Like there was a lot of the energy about like just kind of constructing these places, and to be frank, like no one had the skills or means to actually do it. To like what you can look at it to comparative today. But it had a really fun, exciting energy to it all. And you'd go to some other site and like Feld saying you're all like, oh shit, Feld's here too. Like that guy's awesome. And like so you would just hop around and move around. It's like, what does this site look like? What's their methodology on how organizing their site? All this kind of stuff, because there was no main thing. And that was kind of, since it wasn't really officially released here, you had all these unofficial places. And it was actually just kind of really fun and entertaining to be into that. That's how I met like Holbert about stuff. And that obviously turned into RPGmaker.net and things. But yeah, it was a fascinating era of all this stuff. There was this whole, like, obviously people were trying to make games, but there was also this, like, how do we create communities for these games?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that, to add on to that, one of the coolest things I thought that kind of went into that, which is unique, strictly unique to what RPG Maker is, are hunting for assets,
Yes.
And like, like you had like people like, oh man, this place got the best like Final Fantasy 6 rips. Like, no,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And like, like it's just like you had like all these like different like spots where like everybody kind of hunted, like treasure hunted almost for like resources. Like a lot of like, the viability of like these communities would be linked to basically the skill of people to get resources, right?
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Yeah, and it's just like, like for example, like take rips, right? Like take like Final Fantasy 6 rips. I remember like there being like a huge thing, it's still maybe still is, where it's like you shouldn't use rips, right? Now I don't know, like this is still like, you know, a big high item like it was when we were 14. Like obviously, right, if you're like making the type of games that we're talking about, like no, do not use ribs. Like no, 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 don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like creatively bankrupt and illegal and like, you know, you're ripping shit off, right? But when we were little, like, you know, looking back on it, it was like harmless, right? Like, you know, you're just like, making like just collages. You know, none of us made anything, you know, and none of us ended up like, I can say back in, you know, 2021, none of us made anything where it was like some big controversy on Twitter because you used Final Fantasy VI. It ended up not mattering.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
looking
Yeah,
back,
man.
I can say with like hindsight that like even something that was hotly debated, which obviously the winner is like, don't do it if you're going to sell your game for money, and even for free it's kind of like it really just, we're just us kids just messing around with stuff, and it really like, I think it honestly was really a boon. Like, you know, like I learned a lot through pixel art, through editing Final Fantasy VII,
Yeah.
for example.
I mean,
Yeah,
I was
totally.
talking with Blind about Beloved Rapture actually, and that would have come from maybe they have some rips in the original, but then like slowly it's become this commercial thing like 15 years later. So I mean, you know, it can eventually happen.
Yeah, but it was like a style guide, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, exactly. Like, it's like, okay, well, like Final Fantasy VI Ribs helped me discover the tone that I actually want this game to be in. Like several years later, now that I'm having paid assets, like, oh, I wanted to have a dark texture tone like Final Fantasy VI, or I wanted to have a light, like, you know, like light palette, like Chrono Trigger, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, the point I guess I'm trying to make with that is that even like the underground, messier, like uncharted aspects of our trade, like looking back, it really like propelled the personality and growth of it collectively and us as individuals.
Yeah, and you know, I wanted to like echo on something WIP said, where like it's really unexpected where an interest in the RPG Maker community led our lives. Like, for example, now my professional work is stuff like working on volunteer standards groups to define new protocols that are used by technology around the world, which is really cool. But RPG Maker 95 is where I learned computer science concepts for the first time.
Yeah.
Just real fundamental concepts about like things interacting and like keeping track of different values and stuff, you know, which eventually leads into having a basic understanding of computer science when you actually sit down to learn this stuff for real. And then, you know, years later, you're inventing new computer science, you know, with other people, which is insane. I want to, you know, it's like some dumb teenager that's like 13 years old hanging out with a bunch of goth college students on a role-playing server.
That's the
like,
career path. That's what you. Any aspiring programmers, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Hang on.
My like programming journey was literally from me trying to like figure out how to program a website better for like RPG Maker like sites. You know, that's what led me into programming, and that's what I do as a career now. And so it's interesting of like my interest here is what drove me into like discovering that stuff. And it's just sort of like a fascinating tool. Like also like with the rips, like what Feld was saying, like I did my own ripping for, you know, assets and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I can look at a website and I can spot an out of position pixel like within like half a fucking second now. Cause I'm like, I was so into like ripping and like perfectionism of getting like things where they're supposed to be lined up that I can also like, I can't like not see it now. And so I'm like, oh, that thing's off a pixel. You know, just cause I'm like, I spent so much time ripping up goddamn Final Fantasy VI tiles, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And like, I don't know. I remember back then you're building RMN, like, you know, you'd complain about stuff that a developer now would just never encounter. This was before Web 2.0.
Right,
this is important. They're, you know, like a lot of programming questions these days, common web development things, you know, you can Google your question and you'll end up on Stack Overflow in like someone else has like solved this problem for you before. You know, like back in the day, this guy's got to like look up HTTP verbs and stuff, which like you just don't. It doesn't. You know, these days you want to stand up a community or like pick in a WordPress theme or something. It's fine.
You make a Discord server.
You can go. You don't have the level of resources available back then. It's just a different world, and even sophisticated web design back then, you know, of course, by our standards, is just crap. But the people working on it were probably a lot more capable. Like they just didn't have the resources and community that you have now.
Yeah. I mean, we don't necessarily have to like dive into like, at least at this point, of like history of like RMN stuff, but some of the initial stuff that I wrote for it, I had to process like raw web requests because there was nothing else available. Like I had to learn how to do it.
Yeah, I think we'll go on deeper into the RPGmaker.net like structure and like the deep dive section. That'll be quite a good, interesting thing to go into. When it comes to like what inspired you, are there certain kinds of games or other media that would inspire you to create a certain way? I think we talked about like World of Warcraft earlier and different games. What particular media would inspire you in this way?
So my first two pieces of media that I've ever gotten into was one of my very first memories is watching a music video, Michael Jackson's "Leave Me Alone." I was looking up on the TV and I was like 4, and like I'm like, yeah, wow, MTV is like awesome. So like music is like a big one for me. Another is movies. Like I've seen countless. That's like my first love in terms of like media. Countless movies. I'm a huge movie buff. So those two, other than video games, are like two alternative pieces of media that's important to me, and it helped shape my view as games as more than just the mechanics of the gameplay, which gameplay is paramount, of course, but they're also holistic experiences that are an alternative form of media that is just as valid to feeling as anybody else when it's perfected. For example, like people say, for example, like, oh, I'm playing this RPG and the story is only so and so, the story is crap, yada yada. And then you'll see like 2 posts down, oh well, if you want a good story, read a book, like, you know, da da da. And I'm like, no, that's just stupid. Like, this is dumb as hell. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why is it that the books, which I love, you know what I mean, like read tons of books, but why is it that like books, are the only form of valid media if you want to tell a good story? Like movies, like tell excellent stories, like, you know what I mean? Like so does even music. Like you have whole albums where like it's a story and all the songs, all the lyrics are like part of the narrative. Like video games are a holistic experience where that form of storytelling that encompasses more than just like the plot or the characters or any of those like rules. The thing that's unique to video games is the interactability and like the style and the music and all that interacts into something you have in your hands and you're manipulating that somehow. And having basically experienced those other pieces of medium first before I really got into video games, and I was like 10, like it really, I think, me relative to other people who play video games really like kind of color how I think that video games can be maximized for meaning and fulfillment and enjoyment and fun.
Yeah, totally. When it comes to like, those kinds of experiences, they can definitely like resonate in a really deep way.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you can learn from them, right? I mean, all forms of media learn from one another. Like, for example, like the prevalence of really hard-hitting TV, is based on a lot of them looking at script writing for movies and books and adapting it to an episodic format, like Breaking Bad and Mad Men. You didn't have those types of TV shows, like, was it 20 years ago? But now the medium is evolved where they're learning lessons from these other pieces of media and they made it better, because of it. I like to say the same thing. For example, one of the reasons why Yakuza 7 is so good is because they knew when to not make a video game. Like when you're actually going through like the plot, the way the narrative unfolds, even though it's presented to you structurally similar to a JRPG, the actual voice acting and the characters and the dialogue, you're like, wow, this is like really good Japanese TV. And that, I think that's a great example of that in action.
In the case of other media, I'd like to echo like music, where although I've been in like I've played video games since I was like 4 years old. The structure and beat of music is like really what kind of somewhat inspires my idea of like games, where it's like so much of games is like how you're experiencing it, how you're feeling it, and how like your emotional response to it is. And I have my own quirks about things that I just cannot stand in video games because I feel it somewhat goes, I guess you could say, out of rhythm of what I would consider the game to be moving as. And anytime I run into one of those, it's like you hit like a speed bump and it kind of pulls me out of the game a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes you're like real particular about something and I'm like, it's fine, it's just a bit of jank. And you're like, I can't tolerate this stupid game.
I cannot stand it, and you don't understand. There's a handful of things in like games where it's like, and I realize I'm particular about it, where it's like there's an aspect of maybe like we'll say Dragon Quest, where I've had a hard time getting into Dragon Quest because of some of the way that just like the way that the game moves and is structured. Like I have a hard time with it because I feel it shouldn't move at the way that it does.
Yeah, and I'm like, look, it's a Dragon Quest game, you know, the controls are bad, but it's fine. It's a turn-based RPG. It's not important. But I can totally see where you're like, I just feel uncomfortable playing this game. Yeah. It doesn't feel nice.
That's what I get, yeah.
I was going to say for my part, I mean, like, of course, I've played a lot of Japanese RPGs in my life. It's mostly what I play. On a Tinder date, that's not the first thing I reveal about myself, though, if you know, would be surprised by that information.
Yeah.
But so of course that's a big inspiration, but a big inspiration for me, and this is real pretentious, so get ready, for game development is ballet. God. Yeah, so
I'm sorry, keep going.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I'm not a dancer. I was never a ballerino. But I studied music theory in university. And I really fell in with studying ballet from a musical perspective because there was something about the hook of marrying visual storytelling with music, where the music told so much of the story. There's no dialogue, there's no singing in a ballet, right? That really tapped into my love of video game music. And for some reason there was like just this connection made in my head. And that's something that's always in the back of my mind when I'm doing a score for a game, or when I'm working on my own game, or I'm just kind of thinking about how it feels to like run around a scene that I've constructed.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Like both WIP and Brandon hit on some really, like honestly, for example, like how like WIP was saying how the game's music and the movement kind of intertwine. Earlier in the podcast, I was talking about Streets of Rage 4, and the music and the movement of the game, like the animation is like really clean, and the music is just like really bouncy, and it looks like a music video. Like, you know, like the music just goes with whatever was happening, you know, like all the action and emotion and even the idle motions looks like they're like dancing, you know. Or like if you want an RPG example, a classic one, you know, that I'm sure everybody will be familiar with and a lot of listeners will play, is Xenogears, right? Take Xenogears. The battle system for Xenogears.
They're dancing in that, baby.
They're dancing, exactly, right? The mechanics are really not that impressive. Like the death blow system is like really cool, but there's really not a lot of meat to the actual mechanics like at all. Like the game doesn't have like critical hits. Like nobody's weak to anything really. Like no elemental weaknesses come to play. It's just like straight up beat the shit out of shit. But like they're moving, like, you know, look at Faye bouncing to like the, you know, he's jamming. The death blows look like something out of Street Fighter. Yeah. Like it just flows like water.
Yeah, like with the Mario RPG games, like not the Paper Mario ones, but like Super Mario RPG and some of the Mario Luigi games, like those games I think are fantastic studies in that, where like Mario and Luigi, like they're like dancing and animating with the beat of the music, like the animation stuff. It's like, and it's you get a lot of feedback from just playing the game, where like, you know, you've got sound effect and musical stingers like that go when you're doing things. It's like a lot of that shit just pulls me right in.
Mm-hmm. Goes a long way, and people think that, like, you know, they go, well, you can't touch it or feel it or articulate it, but You know what I mean? It's there.
Yeah.
I always joke that I remember I made a topic about this on Man, and everybody was like, "No, that's stupid." But I
Oh God, I
always-
hope I said it was stupid too.
I don't know. Maybe. See if it sounds familiar. Like I was just stressing the importance of like, oh hey, like even if you play JRPGs, if that's all you this is what you want to make. I stress the importance of diversifying yourself to as
Right.
many experiences as you can in both gameplay and your life. The media you consume, like everything draws from one another. Like everything.
Yeah.
And you can tell when people say that, oh, like this is uninspired, like the older I get, the more I really see what that term means when they're using it correctly. Like, so if you're making anything, like play as much as you can. Like there's so much stuff that I've learned because like really like JRPGs I play every genre that I can get my hands on. I play fighting games. I've been playing Street Fighter since I was really young. First person shooters, Halo, all of it. Like play all of it as much as you can stand. You'll learn.
Getting that diversity of experience. Yeah. That has been our serious topics section. I think we've wrapped up quite well there. And now we're going to go on to like quite an exciting part of the podcast. I think especially for this layout with you three here, which is the question box.
Dun dun dun.
This is where I'm gonna get roasted.
Oh man, here goes.
Welcome to the Question Box, the segment where RPG Maker community users ask questions related to game development and design that we probably don't know the answers to, but we'll try. And it looks like there's some other topics in there not related to game dev and design, but we'll get to there soon enough. Yeah, we're gonna start off with a question by Liberty of RPGmaker.net. Hi Liberty, it's for WIP. What game, this is word for word by the way, what game do you wish you had finished, since there are very few very promising games on your profile that were started but stalled, like Frozen World, you I was looking forward to that.
That actually would probably be my pick. And yeah, I have no apologies for it. Sorry. I've actually considered somewhat like maybe I could go and program that. Like not to like dive too much, but I'm like my sort of programming and like design capabilities of like personally like they've gone to a much better point where I could probably actually do it rather than just piss around for a year. But yeah, it would be that. It'd be the Frozen World. I might have to get like approval because it's not technically my game, but I got approval before. Maybe it's still valid. I don't know.
How long has it been? Does that count as public domain yet?
Isn't public domain like 87 years or something?
Maybe.
Look, I mean, we've been in this place for a while.
Maybe it's
and we
been
haven't been
that
that
long,
while. Yeah.
Yeah. When is Mickey Mouse's? Yeah. When is Mickey Mouse up for public domain? That's usually when we
I think
push it out, right?
somewhat soon, actually.
Yeah.
They anyway, whatever.
Classic case of the Frozen World, just kind of screwing with time.
Yeah. So that's actually what I would probably, of all the stuff that's like on my profile, that's probably the most interesting and / feasible.
To Mal, or otherwise known as Brandon, did you like the style of OG Wilfred more or less than 3D Wilfred? And why did you choose to design Wilfred as you did?
Yeah, there was never a better feeling I had in the world than when I released the first trailer for the first 3D version of Wilfred the Hero, and every single YouTube comment complained that it looked horrible and that the original looked much better.
Thanks, internet.
All of those years learning things like 3D physics and 3D modeling and like thanks for everything. Fans are great. I recommend having them.
I didn't get it. It looks great. It looks good. Like
no, so
and it's also harder in 3D though. Like
yeah, no, it's fine. No, it's fine. Yeah, I'm making jokes. So anyway, the original game was made by Tio and I, couple of teenagers at the time, and we just sort of went with it. And there was sort of like an inspired moment, I think. you know, when I look back at it, like the music is just bad. It's really heavy-handed. It's got like a good look and everything, but I feel more mature and more subtle now. You know, so the art direction goes in a different direction. The current iteration is the 4th time I've started over. I can't even keep track. You know, so there's a much different approach to the art. Tio isn't directly working with me anymore, but I think a good amount of the game's art goes back to stuff we worked on like 9 years ago. A lot of that persisted.
Right.
What's really kind of interesting is what were current gen assets at the time are now like kind of charming and low poly and retro, but it's the same thing, but it still works in its own way.
Yeah.
You know, which is just kind of fun.
Yeah, I noticed like in the new YouTube vids, like 2D Wilfred on the 3D background almost, right?
Yeah, that was originally Tio's idea a few years ago, and he's not working on the project right now, but I just kind of stuck with it. Honestly, it's hard. Technically, it's just a lot harder to do that than to just make a 3D game, honestly.
Yeah.
I've run into all sorts of interesting issues with like managing a sprite interacting with lighting in 3 dimensions, which
Right.
Unity doesn't do. And you can, as you know, we've observed in other the previous game we were talking about, you can make it work, of course. But also it's a lot more straightforward to animate a 3D model and just have it like point in a direction than it is to animate a sprite in many, many directions and like check for different states and like, it's, you know, it's just more work.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I'm kind of invested in it. And then also considering that all of the characters also have 3D models that I could just use instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
that'll
up in the
appear
air, I
battle
suppose,
seats
is
and
what
stuff.
you're saying.
Well, those will appear in like battle sequences and stuff. But the one thing I really like are the cutscene panels. So we're doing the art like Phantasy Star 4 cutscenes. I've partnered with an artist named Artem Parkinson, and lives in Krasnodar, which is a small city in Russia. I just kind of met on the internet, so I now have business ties to Russia. So we'll see if that, you know,
Don't count on those lasting.
you know, yeah. No, I'm making jokes. Full disclosure, I'm going through a freelancing service, so legally I have no business ties to any company not based in the United States.
All right.
I would like to
but-
note that it
but-
seems, I think I've told Brandon this joke before many times ago. It's like each iteration of Wilford, his helmet gets larger.
Yes.
And it just eventually it's all that's going to be him. That's just going to be a helmet.
One big helmet.
Yep.
But I really love Artem's pixel art for the cutscenes. There's just an energy and mood that really works. He's a really big fan of Tim Burton, who I really don't like at all. Somehow we meet in the middle. It works. So yeah, the last part of the question, why did you design Wilfred the way you did? So Wilfred is actually the default ARM 2K hero. This is where the design comes from. It's a parody of that character.
Right. Oh. Okay.
The one with the big helmet, the red guy.
I have to see him.
I'm not even joking. Yeah, I'm not even joking.
I have to wait. Which one? Oh,
You know who he is.
the
Yeah,
one with the big red helmet.
There's the guy and the girl with the helmets, right?
Yeah, and he has a
okay.
horn on it. You know, Wilfred has one horn, but
I see. I get it. Yeah.
Ooh, revealing
yeah.
secrets.
So
Ooh,
the
deep
the
cuts.
original idea I had for Wilfred the Hero was in like 2002 or something, or somewhere around there. But I was making back then they still do, but I was making a dumb RPG Maker parody game that made fun of RPG Maker. And I was making all of my own art. And that's where the design came from. It's like, oh yeah, everyone's going to catch this. But apparently like 18 years later, no one did. So I don't know.
It's just your own original design, completely 100% from your brain. Yeah, I mean, we'll go on to the next question from Coelacanth. Hi, Coelacanth. Is RMN's logo a crystal or a tesseract?
It's a crystal. Sorry. I
Nobody
saw
said
some.
it was
I saw some
tesseract?
people yip yapping about it in Discord. It's a crystal. It was always supposed to be a crystal.
Dang.
So is this like a Marvel Cinematic Universe reference?
I
Or
get-
like,
Well, because just of how
Or
like
does
the
Tesseract
the
mean
lines
something
for it,
else?
I guess people think it's a tesseract. No, it's just a crystal. Because RPGs, Final Fantasy have crystals, and so we did a crystal in the logo.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I get it. I mean, crystals are
Yeah.
just like
Yeah, it's typical RPG fare. Yeah, so that's what it was supposed to be. You're thinking too deep.
start simple.
Yeah, and we originally we did try to incorporate some more sort of angular crystal-y type stuff, but we're like, it's looking stupid as hell. Let's not go that route. So we didn't. But the crystal thing kind of stuck around.
Yeah, here's a quick question from Odd. This is like an Odd from RPGmaker.net. Can you try to shut down the forums again, WIP?
I could. I don't think the idea was great the first time. Which I don't know if we want to dive into that further on.
Well, here's some more questions, I suppose.
Okay.
Combined between Old Man or Cappage from RPGmaker.net. One for WIP. Do you regret not closing down the forums? Pixelist or Marek from RPG Maker Discord says, WIP, can you come back someday and completely remodernize RMN? How much, dude? Name a price, please, bro. And then Muffle from RPGmaker.net asks, I'd like to know what happened and why you wanted to close it down, considering the community was doing so well. What was going through your mind during that time, and what made you want to close it down in the first place? So I suppose that those kind of
It's all, yeah. It's I don't know. It's complicated to think about what function the site should serve, and this dives into really what does the site serve? Is it? I grew up kind of with Brandon and Feld and that, posting on forums. That's basically what these sites were forums. Some sites weren't anything but a forum. So there was no front site for it. And so a lot of the time and technical energy on RMN was devoted to game pages and a bunch of other features to try to pull people out of not just posting on a forum. And this is probably a little bit of younger me's ego getting involved. And also me dictating on what I think the community, how it should interact. I didn't want people just posting nonsense on the forums. That's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
And one of the iterations.
go
ahead, Brandon.
I'm remembering things now, man. Yeah, I'm remembering things I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reawakening.
What about my ego or what?
No, I'm just remembering. I'm there was that moment where it's the games aren't getting enough attention, and this community is about games.
Yeah,
and people are fighting over it.
And part of it where it's what I always, as sort of the person that was in charge of pretty much everything, it's where how do you? This I don't want to get this too into sociological stuff, but it's how do you get a community or a society to act in a certain way? And a lot of it was me saying well, I think that we should be doing this stuff. Yeah. And a lot of the decisions I made were trying to clamp down on that as hard as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And so closing down the forums, there was the part when version 3 of the site came out where you couldn't post stuff about your game on the forums anymore. I just said no, just don't do that. You're not allowed to do that anymore. Use the game pages. And it was man, that was met with a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone's but we love the screenshot thread.
Yeah.
Why are you?
Which and like, look, and I don't know. I mean, I still don't know for like sure where it's like, how do you balance all this stuff where it's like, the site could do a lot of things with the game page, but you look at something like Gaming World that you like, that's back, when RMN popped up, that was its biggest, you would say, competitor. Gaming World's like front page, who gave a shit about that thing? No one cared about that. No one went there. Everyone just went to the forums, and that wasn't bad. Like the way that I saw it at the time with RMN, where I'm like, that is bad.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to pull people out of this thing that I thought was bad. And honestly, the way that probably the correct way was somewhere in the middle, where it's like, or you don't build it to work like that. I mean, if you look at the way that social media and the way that the rest of the web has kind of like moved along since those days, most sites don't have forums anymore. Like some of them do, I guess, for certain things, but like Twitter doesn't have a forum. Twitter is a forum. So it's like, that's more of the thing that I was trying to attain. But I was incapable of doing that.
And then you look at things like itch.io and stuff, which is pretty much like the game page. Well, I think they've wrote forums and stuff within each game, and maybe forums. I haven't been to the global forums per se, but like it's mostly that game page format, and then most of the interactions happen on the game pages, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, you look at things like itch, right? Itch.io. Yeah. It's like that's sort of the thing where like that's not exactly what I wanted the site to be. But that thing, it's like, yeah, that works on a totally sort of different angle about like what the RPG Maker scene was kind of like, that's what they did. Because RPG Maker, like the community, it was like 98% forum based. Like that's what it was. And a lot of it was me trying to like move that out of there.
Yeah. But
not doing it totally successfully. Obviously, as I wanted to shut the forums down.
I think, just to interject real quick, I think that your idea was fine. Like, honestly, like the logic behind it, like getting people to like basically chatter less and make and collaborate and like, participate more. I just think that like it was at a weird time in relation to like you said, the community around it, like now your idea is to kind of like itch.io, right?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I think the idea that you had is more what Steam is right now.
That's probably more accurate to like what I saw RMN as being, was something more Steamish than something like, because it wasn't supposed to be Twitter. It was supposed to be Steam, I guess is a good way to put it.
Right.
I think your biggest obstacle to that was just simply the timing, because it was at an era where there was really no other major forum competitor in the same like sphere, I guess. Like if you had that idea, and this is not your fault or this is anyone's fault, it's just how it ended up. If you had that exact same idea and you executed it while, say, like Gaming World was still popping, like people would be like, oh, let's go to RMN for game pages and go back to Gaming World, talk about it. You know what I mean? It was it would have flourished. It would have been like like synchronous. It would have fed off each other, if anything. But I think at the time it was like, well, if you shut the forums down, like, where will we go? Like, we'll have nowhere to go. We'll be homeless.
Yeah. And like, that's a lot of kind of like that pushback. It's like everyone's like, well, where do I post about my game? It's like, there's a whole website for it. And a lot of that, which, I mean, I don't necessarily want to get into it like at this point in like the discussion of it, but yeah, it's like, that's kind of what it was. And for the question of, why did I want to close the site down? I can't really say for sure what was going through my mind. It's like, it's been, oh my God, like, I don't know, at least a decade and a half since I was the one that was running anything. I know a lot of it was just me being like, this isn't going the direction that I wanted it to go, which again was like part of my faults of saying like, this is what I think it should be. And part of it was also like, I didn't build the thing that I like set out to build. And so how do I kind of rectify all that in my own mind?
Right.
So whereas the community where it's like, it was doing its thing. For me, it's like I'm kind of out of this because it's not really the thing that I want it to be. And part of it was I'm like honestly I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna throw it in the garbage on my way out, you know.
Yeah.
which that's what I tried to do, and like Holbert was a little upset with me.
Yeah.
Which that's fair. But yeah, like I was like, I'm like, this isn't the thing that I want to construct. This isn't, like the focus of it isn't like necessarily what I am getting anything like out of.
Yeah.
I could have exited much more gracefully than I did. That's a good way to put it.
It seems
we were all RPG Maker, you know?
Yeah.
We were all doing something like kind of like the whole point of the hobby is we were doing something that like nobody tried to do. There's no precedent for it, you know?
Yeah, and there is... go ahead, Brandon.
I think an interesting thing with a project like this is that, typically you make a project and you just like throw it away if you don't like it, but that would be taking something away from a community that valued something,
right.
When you're like, yeah, whatever, I just want to, I'm just going to move on with my life, at the same time, there's a whole community of people that's like, yeah, but we depend on this thing that you make and manage. And what are you doing? How dare you have opinions about how the thing that you created should be run,
Yeah.
But it is the thing that other people value, so there's some natural friction there.
It's interesting. Yeah, I felt like people might have promoted you to the villain status, where you're like you're somewhat mastermind, just sort of twirling your mustache and going, heh.
Which one? I've never had a mustache in my life. I'm never gonna grow a mustache. Mustaches are gross.
Yeah.
But
they plan the demise of
there you
RPG Maker and overthrow, like all this kind of thing, where people put this persona on you.
Someone made a community game and I was a super boss in it. I think.
Hey, that's a flattering, super boss.
Yeah, and I'm like, sweet.
I think Ness had made it. I forget who it was, but I'm like, hell yeah, I'm cool with that.
This mythos.
Yeah, and regarding a plot to take RPGmaker.net down, why do you think the three of us have kept in touch all these years?
Oh man,
this is a meeting of the minds. I think I think that's a satisfactory answer. About why all that happened. I'll be honest. There's a lot of questions in here about like RPGmaker.net and the sort of community and how it became to be how it is, and a lot of them are directed at WIP, but I think we'll have like maybe some kind of like quick fire round, like
sure,
get through them real quick. Yeah. Well, let's just like each question maybe like up to like 20 seconds or 30 seconds. Just
great! I should have got a timer if I knew that.
Yeah. I'll count down if it gets too long. No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. No, I'll have a bet or something. Okay, so we'll start with quickfire round. Old man or capage from RPGmaker.net. Why did you start an RPG Maker community and not an IKA community? And what are your memories of IKA? Do you think it could realistically be the next thing?
One, I started basically a general RPG creation community. That was sort of the goal. My memories of IKA was playing with a very not refined piece of software that needed a lot of tooling, and I never really got it to that point. Realistic could be the next thing? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's straightforward. Absolutely no. No.
Absolutely. Marion from RPGmaker.net asks, WIP, would you like to comment on the current state of RMN?
I would not.
Okay, next
That's
question.
That's a loaded question. I mean, like I'm so divested from what the site is now. It would be a little unfair of me to be like, well, there's this and that. I mean, I can talk somewhat about that, but yeah, it's kind of not my place to do that.
Yeah, I do want to say for my part, I'm just really happy that the community's still alive.
Yeah.
I stepped away a long time ago, and I check in once in a while, but it's I don't know, it's great that it's still going. You can't imagine a community of people that mostly use pirated software that was translated into English by a hobbyist in Russia. That community is still alive.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And on that note, Liberty is basically the CEO of RPGmaker.net, has been for some time, and I really give all props to her for creating and maintaining a community that's generally positive in nature, particularly given our history of being, a little bit of a Wild West scenario in some particular areas. Liberty has this no-nonsense approach to a lot of that, so I just want to give my props to Liberty. In fact, she made a comment. She didn't post this as a question, but I just thought it'd be fun. She says, "It's so weird to remember this, but I was a helper, kind of like staff, but without powers of any kind. And then WIP ran off and left it to Kentona, and I got promoted to a mod. And then WIP came back and demoted all of us, and I wasn't a helper anymore. Then he left again, and Kentona took over, and I was a helper again. And then I took over the queue when Dickie had enough and became a mod after that. And then Kentona's right hand, and then admin. And when Kentona went, okay, here, have this. And I was standing with the site, and I went, what the heck do I do with this?"
Yeah, it's a thing where, like, not to dive, I guess, super long into it, but it's like, what do you do when you have, I mean, roughly, like, I saw myself, what do you do with the kid who's created this thing, who at that point has moved on, and it's like, and kind of Brandon's like stuff, it's like, the community's still there. Well, you don't want to necessarily like get rid of it. It's got to continue. Yeah. So how do you really do that? And Liberty may have got the short end of the stick there. That's Kentona's fault, not mine. I made Kentona and Holbert deal with it, not me.
Yeah.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. Come at me, my Twitter.
In all seriousness, like every like sort of leader from WIP to Kentona and all the way through has done it's a job that's underrated. I think there's so much to it to actually create a community and really just sort of foster it. So Kentona also fantastic job, and WIP for creating the site. I just want to congratulate. Like it's become my home. I wouldn't be here making games if it weren't for you. So for this community, I literally would never have created a single game. So it's things like that really there's a massive community off the back of this site. This is all kind of like, like little things about how like, one person, may have, things happen. It's like, inevitable, but what comes out of it is a generation, like thousands of people whose dreams are like actually coming true, which is like a cheesy way to say it, but just because of one person's, WIPs wanted to make a site, and then all of a sudden this massive community just comes out of it. I just want to want to say thank you on behalf of the community as well.
Oh yeah, well, that might be slightly more praise than I deserve, but I'll take it. Well, it's. I can talk more about sort of like, I guess if we're deep diving into sort of the origins of it. It's like it was me and Holbert when we were much younger people. And our designs and our goals were a lot different than maybe if we were to do it again today, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I definitely look at it as a different perspective now than what I did at the time.
Yeah,
I mean, you definitely made something that was self-sustaining that's still around today. I think that's something that's really cool. I mean, how many people can say that?
At your age, at the age when you created it as well, which is like,
well, yeah,
super young still, like learning. Probably you've grown since then as a person, and really like and I mean, I think the whole world has. We've had to kind of grow up since our early gaming sort of culture that was... I think the indie game culture has had to sort of hold itself accountable to a lot of the things that we did back in the early generations.
I will say that maybe if I had drank alcohol those many years ago when I made RMN, it would have been a lot less bumpy for people. So...
It's the causative and solution to all of life's problems.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the RPG Maker Cola guarantee. In fact, try some RPG Maker Lager coming out soon to a brewery near you. Yeah, actually, the RPG. Anyway.
Yeah, better check the trademark on that one.
Yeah, better see if that's legit or what.
Well, I think it's time. I just want to say thank you to Anyon175 on Twitter for your questions. You did a lot of questions. A lot of them have been answered. We have a little bit of a time restraint, I suppose. I don't want it to go for too long, but thank you. And thank you also Dungeon Dev Dude of the RPG Maker Cola Discord, asking questions of almost every episode, and also Blind from the RPG Maker Cola Discord. There's just I'll be repurposing a lot of these questions into the deep dive, which we are about to go into now. Welcome to the deep dive. In this section, we dive deep into one of each of our guest projects and figure out what went on during the process, inspirations, and elsewise. We've got 3 projects here for Brandon Abley. We've got the Wilfred the Hero remake. We'll see if remake's the right word or not. That's something that I will yet to learn. Feld 4, we've got the Chronology of the Last Era. And then for WIP, we'll talk maybe a little bit more about RPGmaker.net, but in a different kind of way, I think, through a different lens. So, let's start with with Wilfred the Hero. So what I know about Wilfred the Hero is that it started off as like an RPG Maker game a while ago, and then it sort of got cancelled, I suppose. It was like part 1, and it was made in 2K3, but then you wanted to remake it in 3D.
Yeah, I don't know, when Tio and I got back together in like 2011, we wanted to revisit the idea. We had no idea what we were doing. He had like taken a few classes in 3D modeling and Cinema 4D, and he didn't know what he was doing. He's a great artist, but just not experienced in that medium at the time. I had never done any real programming in a 3D game engine, so I had no idea what I was doing. And after about a year or two of extremely frustrating, miserable work, we finally kind of had a workflow going. But to be honest, I was making a lot of progress with the game, but the way I was approaching it wasn't really sustainable. I was hand animating all of these 3D cutscenes, like you would have in a PlayStation 3 game at the time. Right. And it's just not something like a hobbyist is just going to have a hard time making an animated film and a video game.
You're trying to like create a game as a 1-person team that maybe 20 people would have been better served to create, I suppose.
Yeah, and Tia was doing most of the art. I was modeling all the environments and doing most of doing all the animation. So, it was just a ton of work. And also I was not experienced. I didn't know what I was doing either, right? Eventually, by the time I got through it, I developed some skills. But then I just had a setback in my personal life, and I just kind of stopped working on it, So, so many years later, like 2017 or 2018, I think Tio reached out again, and we kind of tried to start up again, this time with sprites and stuff. And I just kind of went with it. I had another personal setback in 2018 that left me living homeless in Mexico for a while. That's a long story. But I took a hiatus from game development then also. But I've gotten back to it. Making Tremendous progress this time. The story's done. All of the assets are done. Most of the environments are modeled. I think there's actually probably a realistic chance that we'll finish the thing. Feld read the script. He's my friend, so he tells me it's good.
I think he's obligated to do that, right?
It's
Yeah.
good. It's really good, actually. It's good.
But I've also been kind of more practical about this. I haven't been shy about hiring freelancers and stuff for various tasks. I mentioned Artem earlier, who's doing all the illustrations for the cutscenes. So that makes things a bit more manageable.
And it seems like you've scaled it right down, sort of thing, to a manageable sort of something that you can handle, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm doing the cutscenes like Phantasy Star 4, just shamelessly imitating that style, which has like manga panels basically.
Right.
The thing is, technically that is incredibly easy to implement. I just have like literally 4 functions. And that's all. That's all the programming. That's all the work. And then, the rest is the text and the images, but like the technical implementation took me like 3 or 4 hours and then it was done. That is all of the programming I had to do for all of the cutscenes in the game. But the impact is like much greater than whatever I'd be able to like badly animate a 3D movie by hand,
It's being able to you've been able to make these really smart, I suppose, decisions to kind of scale down the work that's required and actually make it at like a manageable workload, I suppose. And I really, it seems like it's good that it's able to maybe get done. How long do you feel? Do you have like a timeline for when you feel like it would be reasonably have, say, a first demo or completed?
No, that's bad luck.
Yeah.
But relatively soon, you'd be able to run through the whole game world and see all the cutscenes. There's not a lot of gameplay there yet. But the other thing this will probably dovetail into our later conversation about developing in general. But I'm just sort of like a more experienced developer now, so I don't have like problems when I sit down to engineer things for game development. I just kind of sit down and make something, and I don't spend a lot of time being frustrated. I'm just able to build something, so that makes the process a lot more satisfying.
It's been upskilled over the years, sort of, so that you're not completely lost when it comes to doing new things, I guess, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. We'll loop back to Wilfred, the hero, very soon. I'm going to actually switch over to Feld 4's game, Chronology of the Last Era. That's what it's still called, I think. You play as Kellogg's Palisade, an Imperial Knight ordered home from an overseas posting, and then back in the Empire of Judic to quell a post-war uprising, which begins a chain of massive events of what will be known as the Chronology of the Last Era. Feld 4, so for this game, you've changed it to Unity as... I mean, Brandon has also changed his game to Unity as well, correct? That's been a big transition for this?
Yeah, sort of. It was kind of natural. So I started that whole process in 2011 or 12 or something, and up until then I was making RPG Maker VX Ace, and in 2011, was it? Wow, that was long ago. 2011 I joined the Navy, and I went from Pittsburgh, and I was stationed in Florida, and I'm now living in Washington State because I was stationed here, but in the interim I was all over the place. I was all over the world. I was barely here at all. So I just kind of just didn't have the time to do it, right? And then I had some free time. I came back from a deployment, and I'm like, well, I'm going to be in the continental United States, at home in my apartment, still in the Navy, but I'm not going to be deployed anytime soon. So wow, I want to pick up RPG Maker and just get back at it, right? Because the project was a thing, and it just kind of had this epiphany where I'm like, wow, like RPG Maker doesn't do what I needed to do anymore.
Mm.
Like it was less the big things, and it was more the small things. It was like, well, I can't have, you know, a message box be animated without like, you know, doing all these things or putting all these scripts that conflict with each other. And it's really the little things with RPG Maker that made me switch to Unity, right? And you know, RPG Maker is sufficient for certain things. I'm not going to be like like RPG Maker once you make your own. No, I mean it's great for. I recently made a project on it. We recently made a project on it. Fatal Runtime, made for RPG Maker. Like, do not regret it. Would do again. But for what I wanted this game to be, it no longer sufficed. It now currently is at current iteration is 2D/3D, kind of like Xenogears, sans rotating camera, but it's going to be like 2D sprites in a 3D environment. You see me, if you go on my Twitter, you see me kind of just like making these little things in Blender, like just trying to develop my skills towards that. You'll see more. And part of that was kind of hand in hand with my development of the game and my development as a person. When I first started writing the story, I just wanted to make something cool. Right. And I wanted it to not be dumb, but I wanted to make something cool. And the older I got, I became an adult for real. And you join the military and you get in personal, situations and relationships, and you travel and, world events happen. It just changed your perspective as a person. You go from wanting to make something that's merely cool to something that reflects to yourself as a person. And especially for me as a minority, as an African American. The style of games that I see out there is fine. Like I love most modern games, but you can tell when you're not being represented. And I'm not saying that it is like every developer's job to personally cater to me, but as a person who's already making games, I'm like, you know what? Like, why am I trying to shoehorn my vision to just be what people expect an RPG to be? I grew up watching like In Living Color and Friday and listening to Tupac and Martin and Fresh Prince and all these things that are unique to my culture, my upbringing. You see all sorts of memes. You go on Black Twitter, right? You see people talk about who's invited to the cookout and all these things, that are just kind of unique to like my little community. And I'm like, why can't I make something that I make be just like that? Hence why I see things that, for example, like Streets of Rage 4, which was made by a bunch of dudes in France, right? But like you can tell the influence, right? And it works. It's beautiful. A quintessential game I also use is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Like I remember when it came out, like, oh, you're playing as a bunch of black people and gangbangers. Like, like this isn't realistic when I played as a mafia don. But now it's vindicated. It's like the highest selling game of PS2, and it's like the highest rated game of the series, I think now. Like it's famous. Like everybody knows what that game is. It's amazing. And it was made with blackness in mind. Like granted, a specific subset of black culture in South California in the mid-90s, but it's black and it doesn't apologize for it, and it's amazing. So I really wanted to kind of like rethink where I'm coming from with the opportunity I got to make it a new engine. And while the story you read off is still largely the same, like how it actually plays out, I think it'll be a little bit more unique while still maintaining it's a JRPG, it has all the trope, it has the cool things about that people like about the genre, but I wanted to make it clear to everybody who plays this as much as they can guess, oh wow, like a black guy who likes RPGs made this, and I can tell, like, and everybody's watching news, right? Like, like everybody knows like the conversation about representation and all that, and I think it's an important one, and I'm starting to see the older and more games I get, it being rewarded with the creativity that is afforded when you just dive into your own life experiences and you make something based on that rather than a product that you think other people will like.
Yeah, I can totally relate to the part where you're saying that the story you've had in mind has grown up with you. Like with the story I've worked on for Wilfred the Hero, like that has absolutely grown up with me. it's the same concept. That's like very, very classic fairy tale framing. Two heroes go to slay a dragon, and the dragon is shown in the first panel, and it's just this weird looking mass of shit that kind of looks like a castle that is alive, and it's like, that's where we're going, and then like Wilfred Squire makes a joke that they're going to die, and then the narrator says, yes, they are certainly going to die, and then okay. So that premise has kind of been there the whole time. But in many stories, a hero can't help but be a self-insert for yourself, even if the hero is very different from you. There is always part of your soul in that character. And this most recent write of the character, I really felt like, yeah, this character has grown up with me. It's this hero's a bit more dynamic, less angsty and visibly sad, and kind of more complicated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as people are,
Yeah, and as we weren't, when we were 20.
Yeah, 20.
So long ago.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, it's so good hearing the in-depth kind of like the ways that things grow with us and the way that things affect us definitely affects. I mean, it's just been the story's grown with you and really like, and even it's not just an engine change; it's a complete utter like change. It probably went through several iterations, but the way that it kind of I suppose different parts of the story would represent different parts of your life as well. Like there'd be still some parts of there from teenager Feld, and then like parts now that are coming through that just exist alongside each other.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because like for example, right, like just as a sidebar, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm making a game about like war, and there's like like some military stuff, and then I join the actual military, and I'm like, no, that shit's actually like dead wrong. I gotta rewrite all of that. that's just a example, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
A lot of that kind of just comes back to what you were said before, like many years ago on like RMN, where it's like play other games. It's like now your game is going to be better because it's like you have far different and grander experiences in your life about how that's going to affect your project now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All of us, yeah.
And in my case, where I'm really writing a story about a small group of individuals that interact with each other. I'm older and more mature, and I understand unhealthy interactions between people much better than I did when I was younger and trying to write about the same thing. So when I'm writing about this now, how do two best friends that have like inappropriate boundaries with their inappropriate professional boundaries and a really toxic dynamic between each other, I wanted to write those characters when I was younger, but having actually lived some of those experiences now, you can approach things a bit differently.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. I'm going to really pivot to WIP right now, just with the thing that is RMN, RPGmaker.net. We've already talked a little bit about it. Yeah, I was just wondering, when you helped create and maintain, I suppose, RPGmaker.net, how did it, I suppose, start in your mind? And did you like making games? Did you want to create a space where people sort of... And then I guess people sort of congregated and enjoyed RPG Maker games, or how did that process sort of go for you as you were creating it?
Yeah, I don't think it'd be much of a shock to say that I'm not like great at creating games, even though that's sort of like the vision that I've always kind of had. It's never really been much of anything that's really panned out. That's not my role in the community, all that kind of stuff. That's never really been my angle. And so more, I guess, the stuff that I always got more interested in was creating a place, not necessarily making a game. Although I still am interested in creating games and the design, the technicalities of them. I programmed and ran RMN. You know, like all the programming was me, all the design, all that kind of stuff was me. And a lot of it started. I mean, I would like to remind again. I was a child, maybe not legally a child, but I was pretty young. And this is kind of stupid to say, but our goal in making it, we wanted to kill gaming world. That's what we wanted to do. Like, that's it. Like, we want to be like, yeah, that's what it was. We're like, hey, you know what? We don't like this site. We don't really like a lot of just the kind of the weird shit that goes on, blah, 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 our different design and technical like methodologies behind it. So we just wanted to kill it. We wanted to make a better version of it. And we kind of toyed around with a few different ideas beforehand, and Holbert happened to like purchase RPGmaker.net, the domain, from the original owner of it. And so we're like, well, I guess we're moving this is where we're going to go now. And we thought it was so like crazy expensive how much he paid for it at the time. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe we had to pay this much money. Like, anyway, we were young, but so, I mean, that's kind of how it started. And like part of it, like the initial versions of what the site was, I mean, it evolved pretty quick. Because at first we're like, okay, well, we just want to make basically a more integrated site and forum. And as we worked on it, it kind of just evolved more into like, hey, this site needs to be like not necessarily just like a community thing, but I always wanted it to be a place where really people could go and like buy a game. Like people were like taking like game development like more seriously, and they'd put the game on. You could download it, you could buy it, whatever. That was kind of the vision of it. And Brandon said before, we're like, I guess the closest thought of what I wanted it to be at the time was, I guess, a web-based Steam. Like that's kind of what I wanted to be like.
Yeah.
But I didn't
think,
really. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, Steam wasn't Steam back then either, right?
No, yeah. I mean, this was.
So you didn't have Steam to look at. Like, I want to make something like Steam, you know, which like Epic clearly did. You know, but you but you don't. You know, at the time, you like Steam was the thing you downloaded Half-Life 2 from. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so even a lot of that time, like I distinctly remember like having, because me, Holbert, and Ankula would have discussions about stuff, and we're like, well, what if we went this direction? What if we did this? Blah, blah, blah. We really wanted to have a native app for RMN.
Right.
But there was just no technology at that time to do it. There wasn't any. I mean, this was way before, like Discord now. Discord's a web app wrapped behind an executable. It's nothing. It's a web app.
Yeah.
That kind of technology was not there 14 years ago. So the ideas like were way grander than what there was actually technical technical feasibility for. And yeah, I mean, it basically started that we wanted Gaming World to die. It was petty, and that's basically how we approached it. I mean, it was weird, just like growing this thing, because we just wanted to see if we could grow a bigger site than Gaming World. And we had like a Twitter account. Like we would see what the ads would look like. We fucked around a lot of times with like search optimization, all kind of like whatever stuff, just to be like, how can we get more people pulling into this? Of course, it was also like, hey, we don't really have the resources to maintain this thing. That was part of the challenge of building the whole thing. Was like Holbert was basically funding it. I wasn't able to fund it, but I could put all my programming time into it. And so then we also had to worry about like, okay, what's the server stuff like? That entire world has changed dramatically since the place was constructed. Like the technology for just building something like this is incredibly different than what it was back when we did it. I had to learn like some of the initial experiments we did before it was really RMN, sort of the site that we toyed with before, I had to like learn how web servers actually communicated to each other in browsers, and like this stuff just didn't exist. Like the resources weren't there. And it was just crazy of us just diving in and trying to just figure out how the hell are we going to program this thing. I happen to have a lot of time on my hands at the time too. But yeah, it's just like it was created somewhat of a petty reason. We both liked RPG Maker. No offense to Holbert, but he was less productive in making games than even I was. But we didn't necessarily need to. I know there was some questions about games is like that with me, where it's like I'm more interested in the interaction between technical and creative with games. That's sort of where my interests lie, and that ended up being like, I'm going to make a site that a bunch of people log into and post screenshots of. At the time, originally, it was of ripped Final Fantasy VI tile sets, you know. And that character, oh, his name's not Edgar, it's Maximus. Whatever, you know. That's where it started, and it's way different now. I mean, you've got like RPG Maker stuff is radically different nowadays.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, sorry, go on.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, you go. Sorry, I wasn't gonna. Yeah.
But like, and I talk to Brandon and Feld constantly. And I've ruminated on like, is there even anything that I would like? Because I could probably usurp control of the site again. But what purpose? But what would that do? You know,
usurp?
Like, yeah. Well, I mean, I probably could. but what would it do? I mean, what would I be able to bring? I mean, I don't have any angst or like anger towards what the site was, but I'm like, but where my interests lie, would I really be bringing anything of benefit to the site by getting or wresting control from it? Someone asked a question where it's like, would I take control and like remodernize it and stuff like that? But it's like, yeah, but is my mind really into that? Like, would I? And if I did it, I probably wouldn't construct it into what it is now. Like it might, and I don't want to necessarily be like, hey, you guys all like your community, I'm gonna delete the forums. You know, I don't want to do one of those things again.
Yeah. For Feld 4 and Brandon Abley, what are your impressions on making games on Unity rather than using RPG Maker? Do you think that using Unity is a necessary step in order to bring more quality to your game?
I'll say no. Even though I will never open another RPG Maker program in my life, probably. Because I just have moved into a different mode of operation, you know, but if you want to make an RPG that looks and feels that way, or like if you're familiar with the scripting language, you know, whatever inspires you, like, you know, whatever. You know, there's an elitist dev that will pick on me for using a framework for something instead of coding it myself. You know, like there's always a different like level of not doing it right or whatever. But no, I remember that being a topic in the community years ago towards the time I left it, and I know that I certainly had a toxic attitude about it at the time. You know, where there's like, you aren't making real games, you aren't using a real tool. It's just a stupid take. It's a really stupid take. I haven't used RPG Maker for a long time, but I think it's very prescriptive and kind of limiting out of the box, for better or worse. Yeah. You know, especially I know there's an old guard that's still using the 2003 program, which I just find surprising. You know, but again, whatever inspires you. I bought a copy of RPG Maker 2003 about a year ago because I could. I felt obligated to. I never installed it. Like,
I think I did that as well. I'm like, well, here you go, guys.
For what you've done.
Right. So, and then with the newer versions, you do have a proper game development suite that has a default game to make with it. You know, but if I poked around the source code and, you know, whatever, you can make whatever you want.
I would say to pick. Oh, did somebody? I noticed somebody breathing to say something. Did I cut somebody off?
wasn't me.
Oh.
Not me. No.
I would say that to answer the question, does Unity make the better game? No, it makes the game I want to make. It would be better for the game that I have in my head. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the moment, for example, like the moment I was like, yeah, it's gonna be like Xenogears, like sprites on a 3D background, right? Like, very achievable in Unity. Like, very achievable in Unity. Like,
Yeah.
but impossible in RPG Maker, as far as I can tell. Like, off the bat, just fundamentally, right? Like, but that's the game I want to make. But
Yeah.
conversely, Fatal Runtime, for example, had the opposite, where like we were making Unity and we were like, yeah, fuck this, and it's better, way better, because we made it in RPG Maker. Like, it would have been impossible to make the game as it is if it wasn't an RPG Maker. You know, even if we tried when we did, you know.
Yeah.
So I think really it's just about like what the game that you want to make, and probably more importantly, the game that you'll finish. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can say that, oh, well, you just use the most powerful engine that exists, but if it's not suited to your project and you won't finish the game in it, then it's a moot point.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of complexity. Like, there's still like really cool stuff being made in RPG Maker. It just depends what you want to make. There's a point
Like this
where
game called Fatal Runtime. Really cool. Check it out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just outstanding.
but you know what I mean? Like, it's like you just have to notice, okay, hey, like, I'm going against the grain like way too much. I should like explore my options, right? I will say that Unity just straight up, maybe the one to tell you this, exponentially more powerful than RPG Maker, but it may not be the tool that is good for your particular vision. Like, it's all about the execution, as with anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, for example, it would, if you wanted to make a game that kind of like looked and felt like an old Final Fantasy game, I think it would just be a lot of work in Unity for no good reason. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why do you want to hurt yourself?
But you also you get the same conversations in other communities. Like, there's kind of like this big attitude about visual scripting tools.
All right. Yeah.
Right, you know, where it's like you've like programmers, you know, that are like you worthless plebs, like using your visual scripting tools. Like, what's wrong with you? You need to learn how to program, you know. And it's like, you know, whatever inspires them to work, it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't like visual scripting tools, but that's fine. They didn't exist when I was learning the game engine. So
yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, the more you learn, the better it
Yeah.
is. But we only have so much finite time on this, like, you know, rotating like ball of like mud. So
Whoa. Let's not get into that, man.
honestly, no. Here's what I want to say. Here's what I want to say to everybody before I leave, and I got to make time for this, right? The most important thing about making video games, doing anything, is something that the military taught me: project management, time management. Like, actually structure out your shit. Like, all of that means all of this, everything we said, means nothing if you don't organize your time in a way that is productive for you. Like, if your style of just like sitting down and is like making things gets results, then do that. I'm not telling anybody to change what works for them, but you gotta really like take it seriously. No matter how small the things you're making, take it seriously. Like, Fatal Runtime was made with an RPG Maker on like 2 hours of sleep, but we actually structured it out, and it's better for it. You know, it may seem like random like nonsense when you play it, but it's actually a very, you know, structured out game. Like, now all of it, like a lot of it was made on like 0 parts of sleep. Like, I don't know how much of that structure we adhere to, but that framework is there, and it would have been impossible to make it without it. Even if you don't follow it, like management. Any young bucks, any 13-year-old that's wondering, how do I do this massive thing? Manage it, and it'll happen. Like, incremental progress. Start slow. All these things that people say that you just want to skip over because it sucks to hear is true. But other than that, do what inspires you. I do agree with that.
And some of that stuff with the engines, with Feld talking about like using RPG Maker for like Fatal Runtime versus like Chronology, it's like, yeah, he knows like each tool has different strengths about stuff. It would have been a little like he was just spinning and grinding his wheels trying to make it into something else, but like RPG Maker ended up being exactly what he wanted to accomplish it, and that stuff is all valid. And the more that like knowledge of like what tool works for you, you'll get more efficient and better at dealing with them. It's like programming languages. It's like not every programming language is good for whatever you want to build with it. And obviously the best programming language is the one that you know, but if you know more than one, it's like you can kind of be like, well, we're doing this thing, or I want to build this, and I can use this tool. This is the better tool for this scenario. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like if you wanted to make something, obviously if you wanted to make something in 3D, you're not going to be using RPG Maker. I mean, I know there's some crazy mods out there, but it's like, that's pretty much, if you want to dive somewhere into other realms, you're going to have to use a different tool, but that doesn't mean RPG Maker now doesn't have strengths on its own either.
Exactly.
Depending on what you want to build. Blind asked if I was working on anything. Maybe I'll work on something. I'm always working on something somewhere. I don't expect myself to ever come back to run RMN, just because of all the stuff that I've yapped about before. And my word of advice is, don't make an RPG Maker.
The lessons we learned along
The lesson.
I mean, I don't regret any bit of it, but that it gets complicated where it's like, yeah, what do? You've grown this thing, and now like it has a life of its own. I shouldn't be the one to kill that. Like that's pretty high up on the shitty scale.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like go make your communities and make them how you can, but like don't try to make RPGmaker.net. That's my takeaway.
There we go. That's a good takeaway. I think we can probably finish on that, right? Yeah. I want to say thank you to all three of our guests for being on the podcast. I'm truly privileged. I couldn't ask for better guests, and your insights have been incredibly useful. I think people are just really going to enjoy this episode. Well, they're listening right now. Listeners, thank you for being on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was great.
It's a pleasure, man. Thank you.
So this is where you can plug or promote anything you'd like. How can we follow you? How can we support you? What should we buy? Yeah, with our money. Give you our money if you've got anything to sell. How can we follow you and support you?
Well, myself, Brandon Abley, I write music. I write music for other games. There are a couple of games I can't mention, but the music's done, so maybe later in the year there'll be a bunch of news. But I have a bunch of music at SoundCloud. You can buy the music for Wilfred the Hero was done a long time ago. You can stream it or buy it wherever you want. I also put out an album of solo piano music last year. That is okay. You're into that sort of thing.
Go to brandonabley. Is it Abley or Abley? I never really quite checked.
It's Abley.
Okay, Abley. brandonabley.ninja for their website, and they've got their music on there. Find them on SoundCloud, Spotify, stream their stuff. Yeah, how about yourself? We'll go with Feld for how can we follow you and support you in your journey?
So right now my biggest thing is I'm on Twitter. I'm trying to be more active, making things. I'm getting really back into the front-facing part of production. I have a couple things I'm working on actually, not just chronology. And the title of that might change because it sounds a lot like Chrono Trigger. It actually might be the last. I don't know yet, but that'll be pending. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at Feld4 spelled out, not the Roman numeral or the number, but 4 FOUR Feld4. No spaces, no underscores, and part of the game collective farm I'm part of is BURGERPHONES actually. Just burger phones, like headphones, but hamburgers, one word. That's so another Twitter account. That is the Game Dev Studio organic farm where we grow sustainably grow organically cruelty-free games. Fatal Runtime being the first out of them, and we have some other stuff down in the pipeline. But
I'm your 11th follower on Twitter.
Thank you. More than 10. Yes.
Hell yeah.
Hello.
Big milestone.
Yes, I'm going to leverage the marketing degree that I got with my GI Bill to
Oh yeah.
to hopefully grow, and maybe you'll see more of me. I mean, you will see more of me, but you know, that's what I got going on. Follow me on Twitter. Everything else comes from there.
Excellent. And Whip?
You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is ATBigelow, which is based from my name. Be ready for a lot of hot takes about politics, game development, and whatever random shit. I do post about projects if I'm ever involved in them on there. And that's basically... I'm also on Discord if everyone ever wants to like yap at me or ask me questions. That's fine. I don't consider myself too insightful about things, but go ahead and ping me if you want. I would also like to note as well to follow BURGERPHONES because BURGERPHONES is great. And yeah, that's it. I have got nothing in the pipeline. Maybe. We'll see if I ever amount to making a game of any kind, but we'll see.
You put together a lot of nice tech demos, but nobody ever sees them.
Oh man, I can put together a tech demo like you wouldn't believe. Oh.
Yeah, so according to the chat, Cash is lost internet, so maybe it will just end with that.
Excellent. Yeah, just go follow them and download their projects if you can. Yeah, just play their games and listen to the music and everything. Play WIP's game, and we'll just support them anyway. And also, I'd like to plug RPG Maker Cola, the podcast. Listen to all our episodes. If you've started on the finale, you're an interesting person. But also, just go ahead and check out all those other episodes and join our Discord. We've got RPG Maker Cola Discord, all available on the link on our Twitter at RPG Maker Cola. That's the anticlimactic ending. Thank you everyone for following us this far. It's been a journey. I've been your host, Benny, aka Cash, the Puzzle Snob. Yeah, this has been it. RPG Maker Cola. Over and out.